Alrighty, folks, we are back, baby. Episode 19 of Live and 5 over here. Young Jay Swish reporting live from Scottsdale, Arizona, joined by my co-host, Gage Ausmus. As always, folks, this is episode number 19. We have Garrett Wilson coming on today, the captain of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. That is the Philadelphia Flyers AHL team. Spent a lot of time in the American Hockey League, had an 84-game stint in the NHL, played on a team with Sid Crosby. Good you. But before we get to that, we, as always, have our pre-show over here at Live and 5, brought to you by Butter Golf and Mini Movers. Mini Movers is the official moving company of Live and 5. If you need your shit packed, you know somebody's moving. Maybe you're moving in with your significant other and you need that person's shit packed. Give Gage a call or Mini Movers a DM, direct message on Twitter, Instagram. Head over to their website. They will get you a quote today. And as always, brought to you by Butter Golf. I sent Ozzo one of these crispy hats I'm wearing right now. It's a little bit of a Detroit Tigers kind of cryptic look with the B. They're nice. They're two-tone Malone. I'm rocking the navy fit right now, a little white on there, a little white and bright. So Ozzo, those should be showing up to the warehouse in the next couple of days. We'll get you fitted, as well as a new rally cap. The one Ozzy's wearing right now is a tan and black option. We have a Dodger blue and a white option. So these are nice. These are juicy. We're going to be rolling out some things for the waste management. So look ahead for those, and as well as some other things coming up. So folks, again, Mini Movers and Butter Golf. Low and slow over here today, Ozzy. Tuesday, we are recording. It is roughly 4:32 Mountain Standard. What's up, brother? How we doing? How was the weekend? And how is your dry January, as I like to call it, has turned into damp January now? Because, God damn it,
Yeah.
It is so hard to stay off the piss.
You just can't do it.
Are you boozing right now?
I've got a drink right now.
It looks like a little brown water fella.
Yeah, a nice little old fashioned here. I've never been. I just don't believe in that dry January thing. It's just, you got a problem boozing, just stop altogether. You don't need to stop for a couple weeks. If you think you got a problem, just fucking quit it out. Just
Right.
cut it out for good. I don't think I have a problem. Maybe I do. I don't think I do. So that's why, I just don't really participate in the dry January. But I think it's funny when people do. It's like, buddy, I know you're going to be blacked out February or possibly even mid-January. So what are you talking about?
Right, exactly. That's the whole thing. As you take a nice little sip there, it's like, do you have a problem? Well, maybe quit, or maybe head to Malibu. We can get you into some sort of facility. In all seriousness, right? We're just making jokes, but yeah, that's funny you say that, because I'm sitting there, this past week coming off a New Year's Day bender, New Year's Eve bender, amateur night, this and that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to sober up. Well, I take the weekend off. Well, I make it to Thursday. I have an Irish coffee because me and the Heat Daddy had to go over our pregame show notes before hockey night in Scottsdale. So ultimately, I broke on Thursday. And then I'm thinking I'm going to take off Friday, Saturday, like I'm some fucking hero. I ended up taking Friday and Saturday off. I was a complete loser. Friday night, I went to the Wood. I took in an association game over at Footprint Center. And I wanted to touch on that first, Ozzy, before we get back to dry or damp January. I'm sitting there on the Wood the other night. The Suns beat the Heat. It was a great game. Jimmy Buckets was hurt. So was KD. The Suns ultimately ended up winning. It was a good game. D. Booker played well. Bradley Beal was okay. But I'm sitting on these seats, right? Like just right off the bench. They're, I can touch probably the last bench player if I wanted to. You got the tweezers in the pocket in case you get a splinter. We're sitting in the corner wood, the C wood, I like to call it. And you can hear everything that's going on the bench. And you can't videotape anything. You can take pictures, this and that. And these guys, and I love the association, Ozzy, but they are so goddamn soft. It is insane, man. Like Bull had a little bit of a contusion in his calf, maybe his knee area. He called himself out of the game, and he was sitting on the bench. They kind of put a hot pack on. A trainer came over, maybe put a little icy hot, some sort of coping mechanism to make his knee or his leg area feel better. And Frank Vogel looks at him. He's like, "Bull, can you go?" He's like, oh no. Like giving him like this, like a scared, like he is a deer in the headlights look. All the other guys on the bench, including Eric Gordon, who I was sitting next to, was a 14-year pro. He was hurt with something. They're all laughing at this guy. Okay, so he can't go in that game. He ultimately ends up leaving like early in the fourth quarter. And then Nicole Nurkic, it was like 7 or 8 minutes left. He goes to the paint. He goes up for a shot. He gets whacked literally in the forehand by like an open face backhand, like something like maybe your girl would slap you with, Ozzy.
Yeah.
Like just like a little backhand. He is grabbing his forehead like there's no mark on his forehead. There's no nothing. It was an open face. It wasn't an elbow. It was a little slap. Anyways, he scores that bucket. The ball goes down. The Heat bring it up. They get to the line. He calls himself out of the game because of this forehead injury. He's bitching at the referee.
No.
He goes, not only does he go out of the game, he goes right to the locker room. It was absurd. Like, how soft are these guys? I mean, it's crazy.
I don't like being that hardo hockey guy who calls,
No.
basketball soft. Like, I don't like doing that because there are some G's in the association. There are some guys who are nails, but
the
it's
Morris
like
brothers, some of these guys.
Yeah, but it's like, are these guys, are they taught like when you're playing basketball, are you taught like, it's almost like soccer, you're supposed to sell an injury in soccer and they kind of train for that. Is that something that's taught in basketball now? Like, are they told like you can't battle through any type of nagging injury? Like, is some trainer, like when they're kids, like never battle through a nagging injury, like you're injured, you can't play? Because I mean, it's just like hockey's just completely opposite. It's like, if you got a nagging injury, you fucking play through that. Like, you're playing through a broken femur if you can go. If you can't go, that's fine if it's broken. But if you can go, you're going. It's just it's a different culture. I don't know if they're teaching that now. I don't know if that's just a culture. That's just how the guys are. I mean, I guess they are getting paid a ton of money, and their body is basically what they're getting paid for. So they should take care of it. But at the same time, it's like, man, you got a you got a little contusion on your calf. Like that's probably something you can battle through, eh?
Yeah, I just think these guys are so trained now, and it's so acceptable that they only play unless they're 100%. Like, they're not playing at 90%. They're not playing at 80%. If it's a regular season match, I don't think they're going on the court on the hardwood unless they're 100%. And like you said, Ozzy, we're not here to be some hardo hockey guys thinking we're the toughest fucking people in the world. But, I mean, come on, man. You're playing in a professional sport. And I was sitting there who we had on the other week, last week, with Coach Dar, and she has worked hand in hand with the NBA. And even she's like, oh, my God, like, if these guys played hockey, like, they wouldn't last a second out there. And, again, that's not saying we're the toughest guys ever. I just think that's how vanilla that league is. And it was amazing to see just front row sitting right there with the dialogue between the trainers, the coaches, and the players of just basically you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can go out of the game, you can leave. It's like a full-blown country club. And a guy like Frank Vogel doesn't strike me as a guy that would really instill fear or anything into a player.
No.
Like I don't know if I'd hire that. Right.
Like, pop.
I mean, I don't know if that guy, I would hire him to run my Texas Roadhouse. And I say that with all due respect, right? I just don't think he seems pretty vanilla as is. So, yeah, that was crazy to see just front row there, Ozzy. But another guy that's on the total opposites, part of the spectrum, I was leaving the wood and they showed him in the crowd earlier. And he was kind of sitting maybe like 2 rows off the court, but like in the section where, it's not like just the seats, like the fold up seats on the wood, was a guy like Nate Diaz. And we were leaving the wood after the game, and he was getting like escorted down with his boys to go take a picture on the court. And they were going to get something at, a little Instagram or whatever, right at center wood. And they were walking by me, and I'm face to face with this guy, and it's Nate Diaz and probably 6 bodyguards or like UFC fighters walking behind him. And these guys are big dudes, and they're tatted up the neck. They're this and that. Like, I wanted to ask Nate Diaz for a picture, but I was so scared if I said Nate that he might just turn around and just sucker punch me.
He actually might have.
I actually have never been that scared in my life. And he was high as shit too. Like, you could smell him. He smelled like a goddamn chimney full of dope. Like, I was legitimately scared for my life walking by this guy. Is that crazy to say? And I'm not I'm not a guy that's walking around with a ton of fear, like generally, like I'll be okay. But when he walked by me, he struck the fear of God in me. Like, if I even ask this guy as a grown middle-aged asshole for a picture, he might just turn around and just one-pop me.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like Nate Diaz is almost like, if you're relating it to dogs and animals, pets, humans having pets, you should never be too afraid of walking up to a dog or a cat, petting it or whatever. Nate Diaz is almost like an average civilian or human owning like a pet tiger. And it's like, yeah, come pet this pet tiger. It's like, I'm not fucking touching that tiger. No fucking chance.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind of what he is. Like and think about Nate Diaz, how funny of a human he is. This guy, think about all the people in the world who battle and grind their jobs, whatever they're doing. You know, they're plumbing, you know, they're working at a gas station, they're working at a grocery store. It could be typing away at a computer. They're getting, you know, everyone's got to pull their own weight to make some money to feed, you know, their mouths or families. Nate Diaz, has this guy ever worked a job? He's literally just making a living fighting people. He's just a fighter.
Oh,
How
no,
nails is that? Like, that's it. His whole life, he's going to go his whole life, basically, the only thing he ever had to do was fight people, and that's it. Like, imagine being that guy. It's insane.
Is so insane. He looks so weathered, too. He's like 38 years old now. Stockton's finest. Shout out to Stockton, California. They used to have an AHL team there. And when I went into Stockton, I realized quickly why Nate Diaz was from there. I mean, you could not leave the hotel. They told you at the hotel you could only go from the hotel to the rink, and that was about 14 feet away. Leaving Stockton one time, Ozzy, we were leaving Stockton. There was like 25 cop cars in the middle of just a street when we took a right out of the rink because someone just got murdered. Like, this place is insane where he's from. He could barely put together a sentence. The people he was talking to, like, he got a picture with a kid. I heard him talk, and it just sounded exactly like his interviews where he could barely put together a sentence. I don't even know what he was saying. He had a backwoods stick full of spliff, which is tobacco and weed, right in his, like, tucked out under his ear, walking to the hardwoods. Like, is this guy just going to light up wherever he wants? And how did he get this dope in here? Like, it was just talk about a nail gun. And he's bigger than you think, too. Like, he was like 6 feet tall, like pretty buff. Like, you know, he only fights at about like 185, but he definitely was carrying more than that. I would say he was probably 2 bills, like a little bigger than me.
Easy,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And dude, like, just how long his arms were, because there was a point where it was such a traffic jam. Like, I was literally like on his neck, and I'm like, man, like, I don't, like, if he somehow runs into me, like, he would knock me out with a muffin left, you know? Like, it was crazy to see that guy just up there, just that, you know, close and personal, because I mean, he's a criminal is what he is, and a trained professional. So that was cool. The National Basketball Association, as you know, as the association, it's just a goddamn scene. It's soft.
Jordo, I wanted to ask, you mentioned, you know, taking a weekend off and of boozing, right?
Right.
And when the idea behind taking a weekend off is like, yeah, I'll feel good about myself, you know, feel better. But what I've found when I do take the weekends off, like I'll take a full weekend off, no boozing, no doing anything, I actually feel fucking worse. I feel like I missed out. I feel like I wasted some of my life.
Feel like a loser?
Yeah, you feel like a loser. You're like, who am I? What am I doing here? Like,
right.
I don't feel any better mentally. I don't feel any better physically. I mean, depending on your weekend.
Right.
But it's never worked out for me. And I always have that thought in my head, like, yeah, I'm going to feel better after this. But I've never felt better after it.
No, you don't. And I was doing the same thing as I do if I'm boozing. I'm sleeping in until 10 because I went to bed at 3 because I'm trying to get maybe a last second something, you know, bringing in the, speaking of Rodney, I'm looking for maybe a little action that doesn't happen because I'm sober. I'm not going to be wheeling it all. Then I'm just sitting there watching Sports Center by myself. You know, one night I went over to Nick's place, but he had the game the night before. So he's shutting it down at 10 o'clock and I'm feeling like such a loser. I'm getting blown up by, you know, the Heat Daddy and a couple other guys like, where the fuck are you coming out? And I'm like, kind of like, you know, fella, I'm trying to take it a little bit lighter this weekend. And then you get to Sunday, and that's when dry January turns into damp January. And now all of a sudden, because I felt like such a pussy on Friday, Saturday, I think I have to go not full tilt, but I got to rev the engine a little bit and drop it into 3rd or 4th gear. And I'm walking to the Mullet Arena at 5 o'clock, and I'm 4 or 5 Irish coffees deep, and I'm buzzing like I just did a bump or something. You know, my heart rate's at 170, and now I'm into the game, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like, now what was the point of all of this? So that was kind of my weekend, Ozzy. Like, damn January, it makes you want to booze even more, and it reminds you of, like, just to have fun and live your life. Like, the only reason why I take a weekend off is kind of mentally. And also, I think, you know, I like to work out a decent amount, Ozzo. So it's like, it gets me to that shape. But like you said, you just end up feeling worse and you just feel like such a pigeon. So that was my weekend. What'd you get up to over there, bro? Did you go low and slow with it? Were you drinking Irishes? What were you doing?
Yeah, you know? I went pretty low and slow. I actually went over to Perp's place on Friday night to catch the Sioux game with him. And we watched that. You know, we agreed on, you know, I had to work the next morning, or I had to work at like 10 a.m. on Saturday. So I'm like, yeah, I can only afford 3 to 4 beers tonight or whatever. Obviously,
Right.
that turned into 10 to 12.
Yep.
Found myself Ubering home, very, very hungover the next morning, like pissed off. Like, God damn it, fucking Perp wouldn't let me leave his house.
Yeah.
We're whenever you're with one of your buddies, you're always kind of chirping your other friends, just get going in on them. Like, yeah, fucking, Dewey's kind of, you're making fun of Dewey's habits, then you're making fun of Tomer, and then it's always great to kind of shit on the boys, but it's all in love. It's all in good love, it's all love
Oh, yeah.
for the boys. But, we obviously you tip back a few and it starts flowing. So we had a great night there. And then Saturday I had to shut her down. I had to work a lot this weekend. Mini Movers is we're kind of up to something here in Minneapolis. So I had to put forth some time for that. And then obviously, last night we watched the national championship game and that was fun to watch. I guess I was hoping for a little better game. It was good for most part, but yeah, I mean, not too much of a weekend. Like I felt like I didn't go out, but I did have some beers with Perp, so I don't feel like that big of a loser. But I actually didn't go to a bar, so I'm like, am I a loser? Like I didn't step foot in a bar.
It's always funny too, going over one of your buddies that has a kid and probably I think is actually expecting a second. Like that is a Super Bowl night for him. He's in his garage. Yeah. He's in his element. You're not getting away, no matter how you cut it up, with 3 or 4. That is at least a baker's dozen, and that's a shift that's probably going to 3, 4 in the morning, sitting there just drinking beer, telling stories, chirping your buddies, all in good fun. So, Ozzy, that's funny. And like you said, let's get into our college football talk here, just in terms of the national championship game. Actually, one thing I want to touch on. I'm not going to name the guy's name, but we have to bring it up. Okay, we got to leave it up for the viewers. We get a text yesterday. We were trying to plan out maybe doing the waste management. And I talked to this guy today, and it's all good. It's just all in good fun. But, Ozzy, if you're not going to come to the waste management and chop it up, and mind you, this guy, his wife is due. She's pregnant. I believe she'll be due, if all goes well, sometime in May. So you're dealing with a pregnant wife, but you should never admit to your buddies that you have to bail on the waste management, arguably the greatest weekend all year in the Phoenix area, that you're going on a baby moon. What the fuck is a baby moon? Bobby baby moon? I've never heard what is a baby moon? I thought the baby moon was when you go with your skunk before the honeymoon, not when the baby is in there. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to sit by the pool and rub your gal's belly and say, oh my God, I can't wait till you shit this thing out and our fuck trophy's here because I'm drinking 38 margaritas and you're doing nothing. And like, what's going on? Are you just getting, are you getting top or a gummer all weekend? Like, what's going on? Are you getting any action? She's sober. Are you just by the pool by yourself, just fucking yucking it up? What the hell is a baby moon, dog?
That's unbelievable. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of a baby moon.
Can you admit it to the boys? Like, just
is that fun for anyone? A baby moon? That can't be fun for anyone. You got one person who can absolutely floor it the whole time, and you got the other person who can't do anything. It's like, how is that a good recipe?
Right. I mean, it's kind of the dynamic at home as is for this individual, but still at the same time, what are we doing here? And don't ever admit to me that you're going on a baby moon. Just say we're going to Cancun. We're going to Cancun.
Lie.
You throw the term out baby moon on a fucking Monday night, I'm going to go apeshit. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Lie to me. Yeah, lie to me. Lie to me right now. Do not actually tell me what you're doing. Take that back. You fucking take that back.
Oh, man. That killed me. We were in that group chat. I had to go for a little bit of a walk around the condo. I'm thinking, is this guy, is he a pussy now? Like, so it's all good. Made the call today. We had a great talk. Talking about the golf trip, this and that. I love this guy. One of my best friends, one of your best friends, Ozzy. But the point being, fellas out there, never tell, especially a single guy like myself, never tell me you're going on a baby moon. Just keep that to yourself. I'm taking the lovely. We're going to Cancun. It is what it is. She's pregnant. She wants to do this. Great. But you start throwing out the term baby moon. Now, I'm going to hold that to you. You bet for at least a year. You're telling me you're fucking Bobby Baby Moon. Get that bullshit out of there. Don't fucking admit that.
What a mistake. He's not going to hear the end of that. I'm going to shred him for that.
Oh, I was already on Amazon yesterday looking at moon costumes, like for the kid coming out. Like, I'm already online on Amazon looking around for a moon costume. So Jackie Moon, aka Bobby Baby Moon, Fella, just keep that one to yourself next time, folks. I know that was a little bit of a rant, but I had to get it off our chest over here at Live in 5. Some funny shit, Ozzy. So moving right along over to the game that we were talking about just prior to mentioning that was the national championship game, the CFB college football game featuring the Washington Huskies and the number 1 ranked team, Michigan Wolverines. Now, that game was -5 and a hook, -5.5 in favor of Michigan, and they covered that up. Did they ever? Ozzy, that game, though, I mean, first national championship since 1997 for the Michigan Wolverines. I mean, they ran the ball so well. It was very underwhelming from the Washington side. I mean, Blake Corum, 21 carries for Michigan, 134, 2 touchdowns. Donovan Edwards, 6 carries, 104. That was good for 2 touchdowns. Their quarterback, J.J. Paul McCarthy, I mean, he only had to throw the ball 18 times, 10 completions, 140 yards, no touchdowns. Like, to me, that game was won with Michigan's defense and their run game. But just going over to Penix Jr., a guy that we shouted out last week, do-rag under the bucket, swaggy, he just looked very out of sync. I mean, he came into that game looking sick, too. He had the ski mask on, shades on. It looked like he was locked in.
He did.
But it just wasn't the case, and I think that front line of Michigan really got to him because he really seemed like he was hurried a lot of the game.
He looked like he was scared. Yeah, I mean, he was a little bit scared. You know, when you're watching a football game, especially college, these kids are so young, you forget, you know, we're talking about kids. I feel like when I'm watching this game, I'm watching professionals because they basically are, but they're still kids. They're still so immature, and that's why, you know, most of those games are offensive. You know, I think most of the games are high scoring because, you know, the defenses are still a little too young and dumb to be cool, calm, and collected. I feel like what you have to be to be good at defense and football, because these guys are missing tackles left and right. They're buzzing around, you know, running around. But yeah, I mean, Penix was. Did you notice, like, he only has like one speed when he throws the ball? It's just a bullet. Like, he can't feather one into, like, he can't like drop one in a bucket. It's just like it's a bullet pass, and his receivers couldn't catch him. He was scared. He was like throwing down to his checkdowns all game. And yeah, that Michigan, I mean, the Michigan offense, I knew before going into that game, it's like, it's college football, Jordo. You think about these players. There's only a few amount of schools that get these 5-star recruits, and I know Washington gets a few of them. They get really good recruits, but we're not talking about Michigan recruits and, you know, Alabama recruits, Georgia recruits, and all these like SEC teams. Like, this Michigan team has been playing together basically for 3 years. They had all their guys stay. None of them go to the draft. I mean, they were just set up to win this game. They didn't even need a quarterback. I mean, I feel like I could have played for J.J. McCarthy, and we would have won the game. It just handed off to Corum or whatever that guy's, Johnson, or I think it was Johnson. I can't remember. But Corum is unbelievable, and they just ran it down their throats all game. And I mean, they broke off 50-yard runs, and it was, you know, I said it before the game to my buddies. I said, you know, this feels like a Nodak QPAC game. It feels like a Nodak QPAC national championship. You got an actual big dog school. Nothing against QPAC here, but you got a big dog school here that's been in the Frozen Four a bunch of times, in the Final Four a bunch of times, and they know what they're doing, and now they're coming for their revenge. And you got this other school who doesn't have as good of recruits, a little older, a little more Cinderella story, and Michigan just came to play, and they broke off those runs, which are kind of lucky, and if you get a couple of those, you're going to win the game.
Yeah, you're right. And I just think even just watching Penix Jr. the whole game, you mentioned it. He looked scared. He looked so rushed. He looked, his poisey, as I like to call it, his poisey state just wasn't there. He looked like everything was a check down. Everything was a dart. He had that one play in the fourth quarter where he kind of dropped one off for like a 30-yard game, but then they ended up turning it over right after that or shortly after that. It just didn't seem like he ever got comfortable. And I think if he wins that game, you're probably looking at like a first-round pick for him. Somebody's going to take him anywhere from 15 to 30 just based on the hype. It always happens. For
sure.
You saw it with Tim Tebow. You saw it with Money Mans. You see it with these quarterbacks that skyrocket up and get picked based on what they did, or maybe a national championship leapfrogs them a couple rounds. Now I would say he's probably back to where his stock was maybe in the middle of the season, anywhere from a second to fourth rounder. Again, we're not Todd McShay. We're not Mel Kiper over here. But one of those games where it's a big game and he's not able to rise the occasion, I think really hits home with a lot of NFL scouts and answers maybe questions that, you know what, maybe he's not as high as a pick as we thought he would be. So it'll be interesting there. Another thing that'll be interesting, Ozzy, they interviewed him after the game, was Jim Harbaugh, Jimmy Furta. Be interesting to see if he goes over to the NFL or signs a massive ticket with the University of Michigan. I would probably say he's probably looking more towards the NFL based on what I'm reading. But again, these universities, as you know, can pay big time dollar, and it's all guaranteed. A guy like Jimbo Fisher, who's leaving A&M with $75 million in a buyout, like it's pretty good living.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And you mentioned Penix. His draft stock goes down after this game, right?
Yep.
What if he plays unbelievable in the Texas game and they lose to Texas? Is he going higher? First? Yeah, like how much does that suck? Like just because of one final game against the best team in the nation, now he's losing millions of dollars just
20,
from that.
Probably 20.
Oh yeah, just
30.
From that game. It's insane to think about. It sucks because if he would have just lost that Texas game, he'd probably be a first round pick. And now there ain't no way.
Yep. No, you're right. And that's just it. So it's funny how the NFL works like that. These kids get drafted after, you know, he's 24 years old. He's played 6 years of college. Now, obviously he was hurt for 2 years with the ACL injuries coming over from Indiana. But yeah, it's crazy. It's a game of inches, baby. So we will be interested to see where he ends up as well as Jimmy Harbaugh, excuse me. So Azo, moving off the gridiron, moving over to Gothenburg, Sweden in the World Juniors, the USA under-20 team back on top. They beat Sweden in Sweden. What a game. We did that game on Hockey Night in Scottsdale. It was a matinee stateside. It was last Friday at 11:30 a.m. over here, right across your jaw. So hell of a tilt. Honestly, the U.S. team, they had a good first period. They kind of hang on. They were hanging on by a thread in the second. Some timely goals from a kid that he just seems like he's got it, Ozzy. This Isaac Howard. And for the folks listening, this guy had 2 goals in the second period to, again, tie the game up and then put the USA up 2-1 heading into the third. But this kid, we got to give a shout out to Isaac Howard. I mean, this is the same kid from the draft a couple of years ago, Ozzy. As you remember, he plays at Michigan State now. He wore a white suit to the draft, and he told the camera woman after he got drafted by the Tampa Bay Lightning that he's the best-looking guy at the draft. So who is the guy that's going to score the game-tying goal and the goal-head goal? Well, obviously, it's this fucking guy. He's wearing a white suit. Who wears a white suit like you're in the association showing up on draft day and then tells the camera lady, yeah, I'm probably the best-looking guy here? Like, this kid's absurd.
Well, it's great, and I know my younger brother Trey. He played on the Blades team, like a youth hockey AAA team with Ike Howard, and my dad knows him a little bit. My brother knows him a little bit. He's always kind of been like that, kind of flashy, you know, doing all this stuff. And my brother and my dad love the guy. And I know there's some people out there, you know, he wears the white suit to the draft, and people are like, "What the fuck's this guy doing?" And then he says that I'm the best looking guy here, and people are pissed at him. People are like, "This guy's an idiot. Like, I hope he fails. You know, like this is not the right way to go about things." But you know what? We're sitting here talking about this kid right now, Ike Howard. I know he just scored 2 goals because he's a big time player and he deserves that. But if this guy doesn't wear a white suit and doesn't drop that comment, I'm not talking about him. No, I'm not talking about him right now. And I just think, you know, sometimes people chirp that kind of stuff, but it's like, you know what? It sticks with you and it makes an impression. And now I know who the kid is. And I've been following him along. I've been following along with him in Michigan State this year because he wore a white suit to the fucking draft. That's literally the only reason why.
Oh, it's unbelievable. He's got like shades of Tyler Hero, that gritty kid that showed up in that suit that got drafted by Toronto a couple of years ago. I mean, all press is good press at the end of the day, Ozzy. And this kid, he has that flamboyant style, that cocky swag, that younger player coming up. Like, they don't give a shit about anyone that came up before their time or some of these old heads in hockey that have the traditional buttoned-up approach. This guy's like, fuck it. I'm doing whatever I am. I am me. And it was just cool to see him, of course, score the 2 goals.
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
eventually lead the Americans to a win. But some of these Cellys were so funny, like Ryan Leonard blowing kisses to the Swedish skunks in the stands after putting the game out of reach. Like these Cellys these guys had were so cocky, and I loved it. I loved being an American that day because they went into Sweden and they beat arguably the Swedish team that has been their best team in probably 20 odd years, I'm hearing, from the junior standpoint. And they went into Gothenburg with all the yellow jerseys and all the Swedish trim. I mean, they were showing the camera in there in the
Packed
building.
house. It was sick.
It was packed,
It looked cool.
I couldn't believe the talent sitting there. I mean, we were in a hockey
Yeah.
night in Scottsdale, me and the Heat Daddy, talking about just the amount of Larry Birds, aka the girls sitting in the stands, was like, oh my God, like there is a good amount of trim in here. And if the USA team wins this game, you know who they want to party with, Ozzy, because chicks fuck winners.
They do. We've always been taught that, eh, Jordan? I mean,
We have.
Chicks don't like losers. I'll
Nope,
tell you
they
that
don't.
right now. I mean, they
don't.
like a winner, and rightfully so. Everyone should like a winner, and that's the motivation to win those games too. And I mean, I feel bad for I feel bad. I shouldn't, but I feel bad for Sweden for losing that game. I saw the fans. It's in Sweden. It would be unbelievable for that country and those guys to win that game. But you know what? I'm from the United States of America, and I fucking sellied hard. I mean, we went in there and absolutely bullied everyone in that tournament. And I know Canada's got guys in the National League right now, but my God, if I'm a Canadian, I am scared shitless right now of this USA Hockey and what USA Hockey is bringing to the table. I do not want to face them in the Olympics. I'm scared to go forward because USA Hockey, I think, is on the rise right now, Jordo. And I know we still got to catch Canada Hockey, or Hockey Canada, sorry, but you know what? We're coming, and it's getting closer every day.
Yeah, the gap is definitely narrowing by the second, and I think it all starts with the U.S. national program and just how many good players they have on this roster that weren't even really talked about. I mean, they had 12 first-rounders, maybe 13 odd first-rounders on this team. A D-man, an undersized kid like this, Seamus Casey, I believe his name is, plays at the University of Michigan. The scouts and people I were talking to, he was arguably just as good as Luke Hughes last year at Michigan. Some games they said he might have been even better. He's a right shot defenseman from Florida. So these kids are coming from all over the country. And even like the kid like that, Reuter McGordy, I think he's from maybe Nebraska. Like that hit he had late in the game, or maybe the second period, was
so clean too. So clean.
He stapled that kid's chin right to that Swedish kid's chin.
What is that Swedish guy thinking? Is he thinking that's okay to toe drag into the middle with your?
You go into the middle of the ice. You know that. You know that.
Yeah,
if you go into the middle of the ice. Yeah, I mean that's just it. You bring the puck inside the dots in the Olympic sheet, and you go for the toe drag, and you don't look to where your blind spot is. That was a classic hit. That's something that probably doesn't happen a lot in Swedish junior hockey, right? So that was just an old school hit. Clean as it could whistle. That was awesome. And these kids, like you said, they're so good. And one kid we got to give love to, Ozzy, is this Lane Hudson, who might be 5'9", standing on a phone book. Like, he's a small player. And he's built like some of these younger, skilled defensemen that you see in the league, Quinn Hughes, a guy like Samuel Girard, some of these younger players, Adam Fox, undersized defenseman. He's a really good player, one of the most up-and-coming defensemen in terms of, a higher-end prospect. But that fight he had at the game just put the nail in the coffin to the Swedish team. I mean, that kid he kind of pumped in a little bit of a scrap, that Johansson.
That was so bad for him.
That kid's like 6'4". He was outmatched by
he was way bigger.
A foot. And you know what? Hudson stays in it. The refs, he kind of wears a few while the refs are getting in there. Ultimately, there was a lot going on in the scrum, so they were able to free themselves. He kind of
Hudson makes him look like a bitch.
Yeah, he dodged a few, and then Hudson wraps him up, puts him in a headlock, has him on the ground. I'm like, oh my God, I was proud to be a USA fella today. A guy that didn't even play on that team or at the program. I was like, wow, these kids, man, they're doing some fucking tonight.
100% they were. I can only imagine what they were doing over there, and I mean that is what the NTDP was created for. It wasn't necessarily created for the Olympics. When you get there and you play for the NTDP, they walk you through why you're there, what they want out of you. They're trying to build USA Hockey to win the World Junior Tournament because they were getting dummied so bad in every tournament by Russia, Sweden. So they wanted to do this, and now they're, out of the last 14 years, they're 5 for 5. Canada's won 5 times, USA's won 5 times. I mean, it's working, and it's cool to see. And like you said, all the kids that are coming from everywhere in the country now, it's going to be tough for any country to compete.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see just how that shook out, beating Sweden on Swedish soil. And I tweeted out that day that they won the game. Stan Wong, longtime trainer. I believe you know who Wonger is. He's been the athletic trainer for World Championships, World Juniors. He's an Asian fellow that's worked in the National Hockey League with the Florida Panthers, as well as a longtime trainer for the Washington Capitals. He's basically semi-retired now and only works either Olympics, World Juniors, World Championships. But I tweeted out, I said, Wonger fella, get the Z-Packs ready to go on that bird tomorrow, because you don't know what these guys are walking into after these
I saw that tweet. That was unbelievable.
I was like, get the Z-Pack up, because these guys might need a quick flush when they get back stateside. You don't know what they're walking in with. It could be COVID. It could be mono. It could be who knows. They maybe got the Eric Clapton. I don't know.
That was an all-time tweet. Follow Jay Schmaltz 24 on Twitter. That unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, I was like, buddy, dust off the Z-Packs, have them ready to go. And I think Wonger, being a veteran he understands that. So that was awesome. Ozzy, one last little thing they do in terms of when they win the tournament, it started, I believe, I don't know when. The first time I saw it was 2010, led by Danny Cristo, friend of the show over here at Live in 5. They do that USA Hockey is do or die chant. Now, you being a program kid like yourself, do you like that chant? I just wanted to get your take in terms of, do you think that's pretty cool when they win it, or are you on the side of that's a little cheesy, or are you thinking, you know what, you just won the fucking world championship or the gold medal world junior, you can do whatever you want?
Yeah. Typically, if I didn't play at the national development team, I would think this is it's cheesy. I don't really necessarily love it. And I think it's cool when they do it, especially winning the World Juniors. But this is a completely an NTDP thing. Like, this is something we say, after we're taught this when you go to Ann Arbor. Now it's in Plymouth,
really?
Michigan. Yeah, this is a song that you're taught in Ann Arbor, and everyone sings. I think the boxing, or it's kind of a Marine chant, but the boxing guy there was a Marine or whatever. Whoever came up with it was a Marine. He changed it, like the words, to fit USA Hockey. And I'll say this, when I was in NTDP, it was fun saying it after winning at international tournaments. It was fun singing it, because the boys, that's what you work for. You're over in a foreign country, and you're wearing the USA crest, which, as a kid, you think it's so cool. And you win a tournament and you sing this song. It's very cool. Now, the World Juniors is a different thing, because not every one of those players played at the NTDP. So whenever they do it, it's probably some NTDP guy, reining everyone in, and let's say the chant or whatever. So I do think it's cool. I enjoy it, but I will also say this: I'm not going to argue any guy who thinks it's cheesy or thinks it's dumb to do, because if I wasn't at NTDP, I would think the same exact thing. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, Jordo.
Yeah, I think it's warranted when you win like a World Junior. I think you can do whatever you want. I know when we used to play, I won a U under 17. They would always, so I was never on the national team. I didn't make the team. I got cut, but they would always bring me for like a power play specialist kind of player on their trips.
For sure. We did the same thing.
So I would go play the international tournaments every year with them. I played the U17s. I played the U18s with them. And when we won those tournaments, we'd always be doing it. I'm like sitting there like, fella, like we're in Slovakia right now. There's nobody here. There's no U.S. I mean, it's a cool tournament that we won. We won the U17 up in Timmins, Ontario, which was pretty cool because on Canadian soil, ended up beating a Canadian team. But I was always like, this is a little cheesy, But I was a kid coming over from Green Bay. I was already boozing at that age. I was getting honed in by guys like Grant Arnold that were 21 years old, and these guys are looking for their BioSteel. So I was on a little bit of a different regiment, and I always thought it was a little cheesy at those tournaments. Like, boys, we're expected to win. Let's just get out of here and get going. But at the World Junior level, I think it's pretty cool. I will admit. But at the time when we were doing it, I was like, fella, come on. But I was a rah-rah guy in the sense of being the joke guy, keeping the boys loose. I was never a chant guy or a guy that was going to come in the room. You know what I mean?
That's Jordo. You've been kind of a beauty since you came up. I was almost shaped into what I like at North Dakota. So like,
right.
I mean, I was always like this, but when I went to the NTDP, I was kind of a hockey hardo nerd.
Which a lot of them are.
Yeah, which it was good for me to be that, because a lot of people don't like the program because you end up doing so much shit and it's strict. But I was a hardo like that, so that's why I liked it. But now that I've learned, I've met so many actual beauties and guys who are like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you are. I respect that now, and that's kind of the way I am about this cheesy ass stuff, because it is cheesy. It's oozing with cheese, but like,
right.
I get that part.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny because I think there was always a little bit of a vendetta or something. I was mad that I didn't make that team. And then when they wanted Nick to go play there, Nick was obviously on my side. So he was like, I'm not even going to their fucking camp. I'm just going to play. And, he was probably the best player at that age group, maybe him and Jack Eichel and a couple of these other guys. And he didn't even end up going to that 40 camp. No, he's like, I'm not going to the 40 camp. You guys can kick rocks. Like, I'm just going to go play in Green Bay as a 15-year-old. So I just think that's funny. But moving over and staying on the NTDP talk and the World Junior talk, we have a little bit of news around the National Hockey League here. Azo, this week, we are recording on Tuesday. It was yesterday. One of those kids, and I believe a 5th overall draft pick, plays at Boston College right now. The Eagles made significant headlines in the NHL. Cutter Gauthier, the Turd Cutter, he basically forced his way out of Philadelphia yesterday. They ended up trading him. And we're recording on Tuesday, and it's about 6 p.m. Central Standard. But the information I'm gathering, Ozzy, and the things that have kind of came out in terms of why he wanted to get out of Philadelphia, it's a lot of he said, she said. There's a lot of reports on maybe it was, John Tortorella. He didn't want to play for Torts, or maybe it was the new management with Danny Briere and Keith Jones. Maybe it was a struggling organization. And I tried to gather all the information I could in terms of my sources and people with boots on the ground in and around the Philadelphia organization. And honestly, it's kind of been a game of telephone of what really went on there. And they're keeping it pretty tight-lipped in terms of what exactly happened. I know a guy like Elliot Friedman today, shout out to the Fridge, went on Sportsnet, and he was talking with his co-host Jeff Merrick. He basically said that last season, at the end of the year, Gauthier and his camp wanted to sign with Philadelphia. He was a 19-year-old. He was a 5th overall pick the year before. Mm-hmm. And Philadelphia did not want to sign him because if they were to sign him, their bonus, they would have hit the bonus overage. So like they would have been over the cap. So the way that his deal would have been structured is very heavily bonus based. And they basically didn't want to sign this player because now they would have had to pay a penalty on this year's cap. So if they would have brought in Gauthier last year, and this is what Fridge alluded to, was if they would have signed him at the time, their cap, they would have been over the cap, and they would have had to pay an overage penalty. So rather than signing him, they maybe wanted to sign him on an ATO, which is a amateur tryout deal, and they send him to the American Hockey League, and he goes and plays down there. And then the next year, obviously, he's on his deal. There's no penalty the team has to pay. They're not like they're in the playoffs. So paying the penalty on the cap would have made no sense.
So this was just after the season he wanted to sign.
Yes. So he played his... He played his year with Boston College. Yep. He wanted to sign with Philadelphia. This is what Fridge is alluding to. And Philadelphia wasn't receptive to that because, look, they're out of the playoffs. Everyone's against the cap. Yes, they're in a rebuilding stage, but they still want to spend up to the cap. Now, if they would have signed this player last year, there would have been a penalty because the way his deal is structured as a top 5 pick, it's heavily bonus based. And he would have got a bonus for playing some of these games. And they would have hit that penalty. So they didn't want to sign him, and rather than not sign him, they're like, okay, just wait for next season, or we can bring you on an amateur tryout. You go play in the jungle. Now that was not well received with Gauthier's camp, and honestly wedged a relationship between Philadelphia and Gauthier. Now this is what his source is saying. Now I don't know if this is true. Again, this is Elliot Friedman saying it, so I trust it basically with the gospel. But if this is true, I mean, come on, man, like. Who cares? Like you're gonna go to camp, you're gonna make the team,
true.
You're gonna play 82 games, and that's basically what he's saying per Elliot Friedman. Now, is that all of it? I'm not sure, but it sounds like that had a lot to do with why he wanted out of there. Now it goes into the World Championships a couple months after that. This was around April when he wanted to sign. You go to the World Championships, it's around June. Now, there is no communications from World Championships to this time. They went over, Keith Jones and Danny Briere went over to Sweden to allegedly meet with Cutter Gauthier and his camp. They would not meet with them. So at this time, the player has not talked to the team in 6 odd months. They're obviously trying to keep it under wraps that Gauthier doesn't want to play in Philadelphia, not only because if he changes his mind, well, they don't want that getting out to the fans, but more importantly, if they want to move him, well, now his stock, if it's out there that he wants to get moved, well, now you can go out and shop on Nordstrom's rack because, you know, he's there saying he wants out and now his value decreases. So just a really weird situation, Ozzy, and I want to get your take on just a player a little bit entitled, you know, forcing his way out of Philadelphia. And I also just want to get your reactions from, you know, how the organization went above this.
Before I can actually respond, I have to ask you, because I don't know, you know, how much does this have to do with who his agent is and who his parents are, like who his team is, who his camp is, telling him this stuff? Because like, how much of this stuff is actually on him and his choice rather than the people telling him what to do? Like, you've dealt with that a little, I mean, way more than I have. Like, you've probably had a camp, you know, you left your junior year of college, you probably had a camp telling you like, this is, you know, this is the right time to sign. You had a camp your sophomore year, don't sign, you know, stay one more year. So how much of it is your choice to?
Well, I just think as a young player, and especially when you don't have any family members that have played the game at a significant high level, it's very hard. You're trusting an agent with a lot of the responsibility, a lot of the heavy lifting. And I know firsthand, an agent can get away in the way of a relationship between a player and a GM. And that's what I hated when I was playing, and especially how much we butted heads with the St. Louis Blues and myself when I was down in the minors playing well. A lot of the message got lost between the agent and the GM, where now the GM and the team ends up hating me, where it's like, and I don't really feel good, vice versa, where maybe if I would have just went and talked to Doug Armstrong myself, and we both grabbed our sack and just talked it out, it probably would have ended up being okay, because Dougie, at the end of the day, I think he's a pretty decent dude. And myself, I think I was probably a younger punk that probably was maybe entitled to a little bit more than I thought. But I definitely think if you sit down with a GM and a player that has high expectations for themselves, you can sort through a lot of the things. So my interpretation, and again, if this is true, what Elliot Friedman is saying and alluding to, where it came down to a sense of Gauthier wanting to sign last year, but Philadelphia not wanting to do it because, again, it would have cost them a cap penalty in a situation where
you got to understand that as a kid. You got to understand that as a kid.
And I don't care if you're 5th overall. I don't care if you're 1st overall. Again, they made it very clear, Danny Briere and Keith Jones, or maybe the GM at the time, Chuck Fletcher, that, okay, we're not going to sign you because these are all throwaway games up in Rochester. How about we sign you in the summer? You come to camp and you have every expectation to play in our top 6. We'll give you a fair shake. We'll give you the max deal, yada, yada, yada. I just think, Ozzy, it gets lost in translation where a kid will probably get hot and horny about that, overreact as a 19-year-old, probably be immature about the situation. The family probably jumping on the kid's back. Obviously, it's your kid. And then the agent taking that side where it's like, bro, you need to give the kid a straight shot cut of what's going on and why this is happening versus just like going at the team or just going silent treatment. So if this is true, I mean, it just seems very immature. And I really hope this isn't the only case why the kid didn't want to play there, because to me, that's just child's play, bro.
It is. Yeah, I mean, he should probably be aware of the situation. I almost put it more on his agents. Like, why would they? What are they? Unless the kid's pushing him to do it, you know. Right. Unless the kid's pushing the agent to do it, it could be both ways. We don't know that relationship, but if it was him, if it was the kid, you know, just based off of, you know, his family and, you know, older coaches or friends telling him what to do, I mean, it's absolute bullshit. That is so embarrassing, you know, like to put the, you know, you're going to play for this team next year. You're willing to, you know, penalize them this year because you just want to be on the team next year. Like that is just ridiculous. It's insane.
Right. And they're going to roll out the red carpet for you. You're a 5th overall pick. You're an unbelievable player. You had a hell of a year at school. Again, just work with us here. And Ozzy, when you go into camp next year, because you did them a solid, well, now you're going to give every other opportunity and a little bit more of a rope and a leash because you did that for us. So now, okay, maybe you don't have the best camp. Well, you're still starting in the top 6. We're not sending you down to the jungle. Maybe you got on the first power play and maybe you're having a little bit of a rough patch of 10 games, but you're still up there because, again, you did us a solid. It always goes hand in hand. And I don't know. I just think there was a lot of burgers out there. There was guys like Rear Admiral tweeting out that he had sources of, and I love Rear, shout out to Rear, but even he had sources of saying the reason why he didn't want to sign was rookie GM, coaching style. So there's a lot of different stories out there, and there's a lot of games of telephone being played, even to the point where people are saying that Kevin Hayes told this kid not to sign with the team, which was a complete burger job. It's just like, now you're getting,
what an idiot. Like, shut the fuck up, you idiot.
So you're getting guys involved of like, why would Kevin Hayes care that this kid that's 19 years old, wherever he signs? Like, to me, it was just a lot of shit. I'd be interesting to see what happens here because ultimately, Keith Jones comes out with a statement that says, you don't want to be a flyer? Well, you're not going to be a flyer. And I love that. Just keep it simple. Yeah. Let's move on. Even Torts with the quotas. I don't know, Cutter Gauthier from a hole in the wall. I think that's hilarious. Like, I think what's being lost in this whole situation, Ozzy, is they get rid of a player that, okay, he's a good player. He could probably be really good. But Philadelphia is like, you don't want to be a flyer. We're not going to be dramatic about this. We're going to get out of here, and we're going to get a great right shot defenseman, an up and coming player in Jamie Drysdale, and a second round pick. And if Drysdale can stay healthy and be the player that his trajectory, suggests, well, now, okay, this is a win for everybody. We've got a right shot defenseman that can run a power play, and we got a guy out of here that didn't want to be here. And Ozzy, as I learned, and as you know, there's a lot of good fucking players out there. And most of the time, you're just a pawn. And unless you're a perennial franchise player, they can replace you in a spot like that, bro. I think that's what gets lost in this. There's a lot of good players out there.
Why do people actually care so much about this? It's a kid he's never played in the National. You don't know how he's going to pan out. You trade him away. You get a player who might be just as good. No one knows. Like, why is everyone mad? And that's the thing. That's the other side of this argument. Who cares if the kid doesn't want to play in Philly? He just doesn't like Philadelphia. He doesn't like Orange. He doesn't like Orange. Who the fuck cares? He doesn't want to play there. Get him out of there. Like, you don't know if he's going to be good. You don't know if Drysdale's going to pan out. Who the fuck knows? And it's, at the end of the day, like we said before, it's all going to be gone in a week. No one's going to give a fuck, But at the time, it's a big deal, and it's just funny.
It's hilarious. And people always forget, Eric Lindros, dating back to he's the first overall pick with the Quebec Nordiques. He refused to play in Quebec, so he ends up in Philadelphia. Like, this happens more than you think. You look at a guy like Jimmy Vesey, who was a Hobie Baker winner one year, didn't want to sign with Nashville. They rolled out the red carpet for him. Okay, he doesn't sign. It was the biggest deal ever. This guy's entitled. He's a piece of shit. Why doesn't he want to play in Nashville? He could hop into a playoff run. He ultimately signs in New York, playing for the Rangers. Okay, Jimmy Vesey, now he's been a good pro. He's been an 8 or 9 year pro. But at the end of the day, Ozzy, how many Jimmy Veseys are lurking out in the American Hockey League that we can replace him with? It's just like, no disrespect to Jimmy Vesey. Again, what I'm saying is there's a lot of good players, and you are replaceable in the National Hockey League at the snap of a finger. So just remember that, especially a guy like Cutter Gauthier. Who knows what he turns into? Who knows what Drysdale turns into? Frankly, who gives a shit? One guy doesn't want to be somewhere he's never played. Crazy. Okay, whatever. We'll move him.
Crazy. It is crazy.
Right.
And if it's for Torts, you're soft. I'll have no problem telling Gauthier, you're soft, buddy. If you don't want to play for Torts, like, you're soft. It is what it is.
Yeah, I just thought people are blowing it up so much, and that's how the news is and the media is. But if the turd cutter doesn't want to play in Philadelphia, he doesn't want to play in Philadelphia. We got a great return. We move on. I just love the Keith Jones approach, and that's a guy that I want to work for. So enough on that kid, Ozzy. Let's move along to a guy that's holy Brinks trucks. Willy Styles Nylander, in true Rod Tidwell fashion, told the Maple Leafs and Brad Treveling, "Show me the money, baby." Holy fuck. Oh, my God. And it worked. They started him this summer.
He's getting paid more than Pasta.
His buddy, too. They played junior growing up in Sweden. Hey, Willie, they started you in the summer. We're only going to pay you 9. Okay. After October, it's 10. Well, December is rolling around. Now it's 10-5. Now it's 11. Now it's 11-5. Holy shit. Did he bend them over for 92 bananas, 69 bananas, and signing
no spit, no lube.
Oh, That was just right up the hoop, and just looking back at it at the same time, that's 11.5 AAV over 8 years, 69 of those bananas coming in signing bonus. Wow, fella, what a deal for Willy Styles. And who knows, man, if he keeps playing the way he does, he's a 100-point guy for the next couple of years. He might just end up being underpaid, but you got to wonder, Ozzy, who the odd man out in Toronto is. I mean, this is crazy. Next year, the cap, yes, it's going up to $88 million. I believe it's 87.8 it's projected at. But $54 million for 5 guys, I mean, that's hilarious. You got Tavares, who will be 1 year left on his deal. You have Styles. You have Amat's 34, Mitchie Marner, and then as well as Morgan Riley on the back end. So you do the math, Ozzy, you got $54 million for 5 guys, and then the last $34 million of your whole cap is $34 million for 18 players. I mean, what do these guys do? Like, who's out? Who's out in Toronto? Is it Tavares? Well, he's got a no movement clause. All these guys have no movement clauses. What do you do?
Oh man, I don't even Morgan Riley has no movement clause.
I believe he does. I believe you can move him.
What'd you tweet
a modified?
What'd you tweet about Tavares? Because he's most of his money came from bonus.
Yep. So like all those guys, Marner, Matthews, and now Nylander. Well, more so the first 3 I mentioned with Nylander. Sorry, not Nylander. Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. All of it's just it's front loaded. It's signing bonus. It's all the money is in signing bonus right at the hop. So like the guy like Tavares next year, his base salary is about $900,000, just over it, and he is owed, I believe, 7 and a hook on a signing bonus right around July 1st. So if you were to move a guy like Tavares, who has 1 year on his deal after this year and is an expiring UFA going into
you wait after July 1st,
25, but you wait till after July 1st, you're able to get a good return. Now, where is Tavares willing to go? He's not waiving his no movement clause to say to come to Arizona. Now, I wouldn't think, unless they had like a deal in place to pay him something close to what he's making now, something an ungodly number of what he's making right now, as a 34-year-old. I don't see him coming to a team where, he doesn't want to play or they're not going to be a playoff team. So it gets really tricky in terms of how do you maneuver this, because his cap is still $11 million. Yes, it's only owed $900,000 in real dollars, Ozzy, after that July 1st. But where is he willing to go, and what does that look like? Because not a lot of teams just have $11 million AAV they could add to their roster. Now, again, it's only $900,000 in real money, but still it counts against a cap at $11 million of what his annual average value is. So I'm not sure who you can get out of there. I know Mitch Marner probably be the easiest guy to move out of that bunch. But again, with Tavares with only 1 year left in his deal, you could probably pay Marner with the salary going up. And I believe he's got 2 years left on his deal. So with the cap going up, you could probably afford him. But to keep Tavares and keep all these guys, there's no fucking way.
And now they have to kind of win this year. And do they have the goaltending, or they don't have the defense to do it this year?
They don't have either.
And it's like, what are they going to, it just sucks. They have such great players. They could be so fun to be a Leafs fan just because you get to watch those guys, but then it also sucks because you're never going to win.
Yeah. It's
you need to be deep. You need to be deep in the NHL.
Yep. And they're so top heavy. They're so just relied on those guys. And I don't know. They don't have the defense. They don't have the goalie. So it'll be interesting to see as we monitor that. But I just think if you're looking at it on paper right now, $34 million for 18 players is laughable. So skating off the ice, Ozzy, moving over to NFL Week 18. My boys, the Green Bay Packers. They got it done. They're playoff bound, baby. They got the Cowboys next week in Dallas. Now that's a wild card game, but you got to tip your hat to a guy that we wrote off pretty early on in the season in terms of Jordan Love. He was able to do something last Sunday that a guy like Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to do last year in terms of a win and in situation last year. I don't know if you remember, but they lost to Detroit at
Lions.
Home. Lions weren't a playoff team similar to Chicago this year, but he got it done. 17-9, that victory, 316, 2 TDs. So, I mean, man, talk about a guy. Now, do we pay him? I mean, he just got us into the playoffs. He willed this team back into it. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But a big win at Lambeau Field to close out Week 18 in the NFL season, heading into Wild Card Week. Ozzo, what was your pick again?
I had the Jets covering, and they did. So, You watched that. It was actually, I said you're going to watch a shit bowl, and you actually got to watch, a winter game. It was snowing. Snow was on the field all night. I think there was a couple missed kicks. So got that one for you guys. So hopefully you didn't fade me.
Yeah, don't fade Ozzo. And Ozzy, a last little bit from week 18. There were some good games, and the one that sticks out I just thought was hilarious. I think you do too. Jameis Winston in true Jameis Winston form with an all-time moment. I mean, you're talking about a guy that stole crab legs from a grocery store dating back to his college days, but head coach of the Atlanta Falcons was so choked about this, Arthur Smith. Essentially, for the folks that missed it or saw it, the New Orleans Saints, they lined up in victory formation. So both teams are under the impression that, this game is over. We'll drop to a knee, a.k.a. a Kaepernick. And Jameis ends up telling the fellas, and he goes against his own coach's word. They run the ball up the middle from the 1 yard line, and they run it into the end zone with like a minute left. And the score at the time was 41-17. I mean, the game is over. Both teams are on the same page. We're in the victory formation. We're going to take a knee. We're going to get out of here, shake hands, sign some babies. But how funny was that from Winston overruling his coach and calling a run play and then running it into the end zone?
Unbelievable.
Acting like after the game it was no big deal. Like, what a meat that guy is.
He's unbelievable. All of his teammates love him. Every team he's ever played for, FSU, the Buccaneers, Saints, they all love him. He's just an unbelievable guy. He gets the call, like, take a knee, and he's like, no, we ain't taking a knee. We're getting this guy a touchdown. He's explaining it to the reporters. The whole offense, the whole unit, we agreed. We're getting this guy a touchdown. He wants a touchdown. We're getting him a touchdown.
It was so funny,
he just acted like he did nothing wrong. And I don't think he did, man. Who the fuck cares? Arthur Smith getting mad about it, like, fuck you, like, whatever. It's one guy. He's playing in the NFL. It's backups in there. They're not gonna, they don't get too many touches. They score an NFL touchdown. That's nails. Let the guy fucking score a touchdown. Like, shut up. Your season's over.
Why were like Shannon Sharp was saying like he should never be allowed to play again? That's an embarrassing moment. This is a true testament to his character. It's like, dude, it's the National Football League. If you score a touchdown, who gives a shit? That guy, he's gonna remember that moment for the rest of his life.
They don't ask how. They don't ask how either. That's how many.
Add the stats, Ozzy. What are we talking about here? Like this, I thought that was crazy, and I thought it was so funny and such a beauty move from Jameis. I mean, I love Jameis for right or wrong. I think he's a character to the game. It's the entertainment business, Ozzy. Why should I have to go to a knee? Why can't I score? Well, I mean, who cares? We faked them out.
We are here trying to sell jerseys and tickets. Like, Jameis just sold a bunch of jerseys. I guarantee it. Yep. People are going to buy fucking Winston Saints jerseys now because he did that. Like, it's hilarious.
No, that was so funny. That was an all-time moment. So that was a great way to close out the week 18 there, because I just love that. And now that's all they're talking about. So it's just funny. Like a guy like Stephen A has an opinion on it. It's like, buddy, shut the fuck up. But Ozzo, moving over to the wild card games this week and this weekend, I wanted to get your picks, and I will read you the games right now. We have the Browns at the Texans. That's -2.5 for Cleveland. CJ Stroud fella, wow, as he willed this team to a playoff team. It's pretty cool to see what he's done as a rookie. Dolphins at Chiefs. That's -4 KC. Steelers at Bills, -10 Buffalo. Mike Tomlin never had a losing season. He'll tell you. Just ask him.
Unbelievable.
Packers at Cowboys, -7.5. Rams, Lions, that is -3 Detroit. Eagles at Bucks, that's -3 Philly. So when you're looking at the slate of games, I know, again, it's hard to predict, and these lines do move a little bit in terms of the week. But if you're looking at the big board, bro, what are you looking at, and what do you like in terms of?
I have to take CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's going to cover for sure. I think he's going to win. I might even go money line. Joe Flacco, I know he was one of my nail guns, but we've all watched Joe Flacco his later years with the Jets. I don't know if it's a long season, maybe he just fizzles out, but he's having a good season with the Browns, but he's not that good. So I got to go. I got to go with Strouder.
Yeah, he's came in as an emergency, like, call up the old Davey Ayers special. He's done a good job. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think it's a little bit of a Cinderella-like story. So I like that pick. Dogs at home, the Texans, that'll be +2.5 if that line moves. I honestly could see that moving up to maybe being like +3.5. So, folks, that's Ozzo's pick, taking the Texans. I'm looking at the big board right now, And just because I hate the Dallas Cowboys so much, I want my Green Bay Packers to go in there and not only win, but to cover more importantly. So I got the Packers. I'm riding for the third week in a row. That is plus 7.5 Green Bay on the road at Dallas. It would be interesting to see. I either think they're going to get shit pumped by their old coach, Mike McCarthy, and the Dallas Cowboys, or they're going to go in and just steal an absolute greasy road win. So, Ozzy, I got that for my pick looking into the wild card weekend. Actually, a lot of good games. So that'll be interesting to see as we watch this weekend. Getting over to Nail Gun of the Week. What'd you have for that, brother? Talk me through your Nail Gun of the Week.
I had Mats Zuccarello for the Minnesota Wild. He recently broke his hand or wrist, I think, mid-game, and came in the shootout and scored the winner in the shootout. That is nails, my friend. Unbelievable. I saw him like shoot the puck. He couldn't even really shoot the puck. He just went 5-hole and it worked. That's just unreal. It's unreal to be able to just hop out there with a broken wrist. I'm sure that fucking hurts so bad.
Oh, yeah, and he's a guy that doesn't exactly use a short twig either. So even just to kind of guide that thing as he's driving a sailboat. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, he's got a penalty kill stick at all times. He took that thing right off of Chara's rack or something. So I like that pick. He seems like he's a guy that all the boys love over there in Minnesota. So shout out to Zook. My nail gun of the week, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Lane Hudson pumping that big Swedish pussy. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that kid, Johansson, thought he was going to take the screws to a little chihuahua. He ended up taking a pit bull, and Hudson, who took a high stick earlier in that third period, was leaking all over. He got zips and ended up just with his helmet off, laying the boots to some big Swedish dummy. So I thought that was awesome. Ozzy, pretty cool to watch as the U.S. again won the World Junior. Celly of the week, bro. Let's do that right now. Bang it out. What did you have for the Celly of the week for you over there in Minnesota?
I think Tyreek won the Celly of the Week award for the entire season because I got Tyreek again. He scores. I was watching the Bills-Miami game. Fun game to watch. Tyreek scores a touchdown and just simultaneously runs into the end zone and then goes into a cartwheel backflip and just lands it. And like, it's so easy for the guy to do this. It's so easy. He shows up to the stadium with a bag of McDonald's and a fucking cheeseburger and fries in there, and then he just goes and does this. It's unbelievable. Like, he knows he's going to score a touchdown every game, like we said, and to have that mindset is just, it's so nails.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the bounce of like a gymnast too. What's that gymnast name? Is it Simone Biles or was she the runner?
Yeah, Simone
Biles. I mean, not only is the game easy for him, like you're showing up with a Happy Meal and a McChicken, and then you're just doing that. But then, like, how do you just do these cartwheels out of nowhere, dude? Like, it's insane. Like, and all all my black buddies growing up too, like they always had just the sickest springs, man. Like they could just do the cartwheel, they could do a back handspring. Like it's crazy how athletic a guy like Tyreek Hill is, and it's just everything he does is just so effortless.
Oh, it is. He's just a freak human.
Yeah. So shout out to Tyreek Hill and all of his kids. I think he's almost nearing double digits. So tip of the cap, brother. Keep sinking them deep over here. Celly of the week for me, besides Jameis Winston handing the nugget off in victory formation, then jumping up and fist pumping, which is just all time. Like the clip we'll roll it, is just hilarious. That is hilarious for Winston. But I had Jimmy Harbaugh. He goes up to the podium after winning at Energy Stadium, NRG that is, and he's got the Joey Burrow like tint Cartier shades on. I mean, the guy had a mint tint of blue. They were some of the sickest, swaggiest shades I've seen, and not only I've seen, but on a coach. I just thought that was so cool. The way he obviously grabbed the trophy with the shades on. I mean, I thought that was just mint. So a guy with some swag, especially as a coach, you love to see, and just seems like their players love playing for him, Ozzy. So thought that was cool. That was my Celly of the week. Last little bit I want to get to before we send it over to our interview this week. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Garrett Wilson, 13-year professional, spent a lot of time in the American Hockey League, captain of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, also about 90-odd NHL games if you include playoffs. But before we get to that, Tiger, leaving Nike after 27 years, Ozzy, I want to get your thoughts. Now, Jason Day last week we talked about. He leaves, he goes over to Malbon. Now you lose the GOAT. You lose Eldrick Woods. What's going on at Nike? And is this a situation where guys are leaving because they don't agree with what the brand is doing? I'm hearing the odd rumbling that Nike is a very woke type brand now. Now, to what that means, I have no idea, but that's what some of my sources are saying. These guys are getting into a little bit of a feud of what the direction of Nike is going, and a guy like Jason Day drops off, and now you lose the face of golf. So this is a bigger move than most people think, Ozzy.
You lose Tiger. I mean, it seems like they're going away from golf for good. I don't know. Like Jason Day's a pretty big name for them too.
That's a good point.
I mean, who else do they have left? They have Tony Finau and Brooks Koepka.
Yep.
It's like, are they going away from golf from now? And why would they go away from golf? I feel like golf is on its rise.
Right.
It doesn't make sense from Nike's standpoint. They were already making cool stuff. Like I liked Nike golf attire. I even owned Nike golf irons at one point. I just don't know why they're going away from it. Maybe they're focused on other things. But yeah, I didn't know that part. That maybe guys are going away from it because they don't agree with where they're headed. I don't, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was my my 2 cents that I've kind of got and scoop. Now, whether that's legit, I'm not sure. Where we are a little bit of the rumor mill over here at Live and 5, but that is what I've heard. And I think the company is maybe going in a direction like a guy like Eldrick maybe doesn't agree with. Now, is that politically? Is that just the overall branding? I have no idea. That's just what I've kind of got in terms of some feedback or reactions. But this is a significant move. I mean, you have a Jordan brand that is taking off, especially in the golf world. A guy like Pat Perez wears Jordan gear on the Live Tour. And now you lose a guy like Tiger. You lose a guy like Jason Day, 2 perennial players, especially over the last decade and or 20 years. In this case, 30 years with Tiger. So Tiger leaves Nike after 27 years. I'd be interested to see where he goes. I know his kid, Chucky, has a deal in place with Grayson Golf. Now, I don't know if Grayson can pay a guy like Tiger, but I think what Malbon did, and it's smart, is they give equity to a guy like Jason Day. Now he blows his company or this brand up even more significantly, gets them to another level they probably couldn't. So it'd be interesting to see if a company like Grayson, who works with Chucky Woods, gives Tiger, 10% of the company or whatever it is, and he takes it to the goddamn moon. So
that's true.
It's
so a smart play by both probably if they weren't willing to let Tiger have some of the company.
Right, because whatever he touches is obviously gold, Ozzy. So
yeah.
All right, brother. That was a great snap with you. We will get over to our interview with Garrett Wilson, again, head captain or the captain, skipper of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. One of our buddies, Rhett Gardner, is on that team. So great interview. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Again, that was brought to you by Mini Movers and Butter Golf. Folks, low and slow. Ozzo, as always, over here at Live and 5, tape to tape. I love snapping around with you, brother. Feels like we're deep partners again, just going rink wide with it. So, again, folks, thanks for listening. That was the pre-show over here at Live and 5 Fella. Alrighty, folks. Now introducing from the muddy waters of North Barrie, Ontario, standing at 6 feet 3 inches tall and weighing in at a lean 218 pounds. Some may say he's built like a coyote the way he plays the game, all cock and ribs. This certified nail gun and true warrior of the sport can chuck him from both sides and shotgun a beer under 3 seconds. A true foxhole fella to any squad he's ever laced them up for, an ultimate glue guy on and off the ice. Willy Wilson, a veteran of 84 NHL games, 610 American Hockey League games and counting, and over 100 in the ECHL to boot. This guy can set up a rookie party, score you a hat trick, and beat the piss out of your team's heavyweight. The current sheriff of the jungle and captain of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, your 2022-23 AHL PIMS leader. Folks, it is an honor to welcome the legend, Garrett Wilson, to the Live and 5 podcast. Willie fella, how you doing, baby? Great to have you here.
Holy shit, what an intro, buddy. I've been waiting to hear that one for a while.
Yeah, that's the reason why we have you on, right? You get on the show, we give you a nice little Bruce Buffer-esque like intro, but No, thank you for coming on right now and tapping in with the boys over here at Live and Five. Obviously joining myself, your former teammate, and Gage Ausmus, a couple beauties over here, self-proclaimed that is, just kind of snapping it around. So, brother, we appreciate you coming, but where are you at right now? Where are you tapping in from?
I'm tapping in from Ray Allentown, like you like to call it there, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Just at the place here. I'm renting it from a guy who plays for the Wilkes, went to Princeton, so I got the Princeton diploma in the background.
There you go.
Just rocking it.
Yeah, they teach you how to underline in school there, Willie, not the fuck scenes. That's a slap shot quote there for you. So, no, we appreciate you coming on, but I guess we just got to start it right at the top before we kind of dive into your career, Willie, and just, the team in general over being the captain of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms this year, leading the fellas, developing a lot of young prospects, teach them the old school routes. But I want to start it at, it had been a few years since I seen you. And this summer we were able to get together, through all the COVID bullshit and me playing in Europe. I mean, Turd had you locked up there like Shawshank, but it was good to see you over the Binnington wedding and, spend some time with you. I think that whole wedding was awesome. But if you back it up to that golf round, that epic golf round that we had together, we faced off against JB, who was the man going down that weekend in Binnington, and his buddy, Josh Levo. So we had a big day set up for like the groomsmen, or Binner did, and just, some buddies, real close buddies. So we went off in a foursome and we played these guys in a 2-on-2 match play. And dude, do you remember how many holes we were down going to the back nine? We were down 5. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah, that round was unreal. It was a good group of beauties there that Binner had turned out for that one. We had 2 or 3 different foursomes there going, and I was lucky enough to get paired up with you. So we didn't come out of the gates too hot. I remember the first hole, I was like chunking it in from like 70 yards. I was just like stone cold sober. Didn't know what I was doing. Feeling the pressure a little bit, playing with a couple NHLers, a couple Stanley Cup champs, so I had to settle in there a little bit. They were kind of playing over their heads a little bit early, and it was a fresh course, so we didn't really know what we were dealing with, but so that hurt us a bit. But we put our head down and stuck with it, and came back from 5 down on the back. The whole time, I don't even think I knew what the format was, what we were playing, but then we ended up just coming back and just torching them right at the end. You made a huge birdie putt on 18 to seal it for the fellas, so that was unreal.
Yeah, that old Nick Steeler. But do you remember that day, just the whole day, really, like, I mean, I hadn't played in like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm a slasher as is a little bit, but I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat in terms of trying to hit a fairway that day. I was carrying 2 big sticks in my bag. I was missing it left. I was missing it right. I wasn't giving you any sort of help. We ended up bogeying. Our best hole was we ended up bogeying that 10th hole to put us down 6. And then the drinks started hitting, the transfusion started hitting. Because if there's one thing our cart was good at that day, it was drinking, right? So we were doing pretty good with the old transfusions, on the tequila shots, and we finally rounded a corner, Willie, where I think we were just hitting that flow state, getting to that 11th hole. Do you remember that, where you mushed a drive, I mushed a drive, and all of a sudden the tide started turning. I was getting in Binner's ear a little bit. He was chirping them a little getting They were kind of getting rattled. They were getting a little overconfident, a little, maybe drunker than they thought. And then you started banging home putts. I think we ended up winning the 11th hole. I think the 12th hole, we might have tied the 13th and then one out. But that 18th hole, like you said, I remember it was a par 5. It was a long par 5. You go off the box, you kind of hit one. It was like down the right side. It was like a little bit of a dog leg left. I kind of blocked one a little bit right. So we were our nuggets were like right next to each other. And I took a hybrid because I couldn't really go at the green of the 18th, just how the shape of the hole was. And I take it out right. And I'm trying to take like a little like hooded like 2-iron kind of hybrid shot. It's like a 17-degree hybrid.
You're bread and butter. That's what you're good at.
You just missed a bunker, I think I remember too. You were just over this one bunker on like a hole over, and then you just
I was on the hole over. That's I was on the 9th hole. I took it up the 9th hole because I wasn't able to turn it over, and I was like on the side of a bunker, like 115 yards out. I was popping on that hole, and it was all tied up at this
point.
Like
a 30-foot deep bunker too. Like it was no little bunker. Like if you would have got it in that thing, you would have been probably had to go 6-degree flop shot, Mickeltits right out of it just to get anywhere near out of the bunker near the green.
100%. And I remember I was like 115 out, and I was like on the side of the hill, and I was popping that hole. So I had to, and you guys were already on the green because I was playing like army golf, like all over the goddamn place. And I dropped this thing off to like 4 feet and bang home the putt. We win the match. We're like, where the hell did that come from? The whole day was unbelievable because our chemistry was second to none, brother. It was all time.
Yeah, we had the tunes going. It was a nice sunny day. It was a beauty of a day. I hadn't seen Ben Nasty in a while, so it was nice to get out there with him. And then that was actually my first. I kind of knew Levo, but never really hung out with him before, so it was cool to chill with him too. And yeah, it was a beauty day. It's always nice getting on the course, no matter who you're with. It's always a great time.
Yeah, I
We had
mean,
a blast.
just on that back nine, we just started massaging it. I mean, Binner played like a career best on the front. I think he shot like 40 on the front, which he's normally a guy that's probably right around maybe 45 for the front side, hovering around 90 to 95 all in. Like he's just getting into golf.
He was dialed early. I
And
remember
he was
that.
dialed in that day.
Yeah.
And then just on the back side, the boys, their chemistry, it just came right back from like the beer pong tables in Toronto, and they just started chucking on both sides. You being a lefty, me being a righty, dropping darts in there. So that was probably the best match I had all summer, just an all-time day, and we kind of parlayed that into the wedding day a couple days later, and we were tearing up the dance floor. But no, it was great to see you, Willie, and I'm definitely gonna have to come up there this summer and just to snap it around with you and maybe get a few rounds in, and like I said, be on the card again, because talk about just
100%.
chemistry flowing. So
you guys had to have had some magic at the turn, something that turned it around at that. There's always something that happens at the turn when you're down that much after the front nine. Whether it's your transfusion, it could be an Irish, could be something else.
Yeah, I don't know what we had. I don't even think we had an Irish at the turn. I think it was maybe a shot. I think it was a tequila shot.
I think we had a bunch of transfusions, maybe a couple of screwdrivers, and we loaded up the cart, got us going there on the back. I think it was
the Donald driver, and I think it was after that just brutal 10th hole. It was like a little chintzy par 3. I remember we both ended up making.
I think we were in the woods, both looking for a ball on that one. I think
we both lost
3 out of the 4 we were looking for a ball. We kind of slowed the whole pace of the day down with that. That might have been what got us going. A little look in the woods for a bit, a little timeout.
Yeah. I think we both almost lost our nuggets in the parking lot on that hole, because just to the right of it was the cart path, and then it was like the parking lot. And I remember really looking down at his rock after it didn't matter. He's like, "This isn't even my rock." It was like a different title of 3, but I think yours was marked, and mine was beat to the bush too. It had like all the fucking the marks on it from hitting the cement. So yeah, that might have been what got us going there, Will. But unbelievable day. The wedding was great. I mean, it was the shaker. What a shaker, fella. So yeah, you and the lovely came down for that, but. Getting into just what's going on this year, Willie, in Lehigh Valley, how's it going there so far this year? I mean, you're probably one of the oldest statesmen on the team, the eldest statesman, I want to say. Cal O'Reilly went over to Milwaukee this year. You now step into a captain role, something you're similar with. You were a captain in Wilkes-Barre before you got called up to the Pittsburgh Penguins. But just talk about, how it's going there. How's it going with the young kids? Is it a little bit of a different vibe these days? And are you still bringing that criminal element like you always do? Because I'm looking at your hockey DB right now, bro. You got 95 PIMS. I think Elite Prospects has you on pace for over 200.
It's official. I'm officially the oldest guy on the team there this year. Was lucky enough to play with Cal O'Reilly there for the last few years, and so he still made me feel young. He's in 1986. He had me by 5 years, but he was a beauty, and he was great to have him on our team. But taking over for him. The year's going all right so far. We're about a game over 500 right now. We kind of slumped. We've been up and down a little bit, a couple good runs, couple bit of a slumps and that, but we're back going there now. We had a good weekend there last weekend, 3 out of 4 points, but it's a tough division we're in. You were in it for a bit when you're with the Sound Kiddies there. Hershey, Wilkes, always good. Hartford's good now, so it's a tough division, but we're still in the mix right now. So looking to have a good second half here and getting in the playoffs.
Are you guys still banging out the 3-3s in that division? I remember I got traded over from Toronto that year, and I went over to the Bridgeport Sound Kittens, and we were playing. I think I played 6 total games for them, and it was 2 weekends back-to-back 3-3s. And I think I remember the boys saying they had like 16 that year. So are you on the bone rattler, putting the Normatex on, maybe having a beer, playing some cards, and it's on to the next city, or have they done a better job of that? Over the years, not having so many 3-3s.
Yeah, they're trying to limit them for sure. I think we lead the league this year in 3-3s, and we have 6 of them. So we've already had a couple of them. We haven't had the Sunday matinee game in Bridgie yet in front of like 5 or 6 people. So we're still looking forward to some of those ones. But yeah, we have 4 more there. Finish out the year. They're a grind. Like the ones you're traveling throughout the whole time too. They're tough, but. I love being on the bus, you know, just chucking the cards with the boys, having a couple of beers at the back of the bus. There's nothing better. I've been doing it for a while there now, and you know, some guys hate it, they don't like it, but when you're on the back of the card table, the bus ride flies by. So next thing you know, you're where you're supposed to be, and you got a little buzz, so it's great.
You're a man's man too, Willie. You know the way of the road. You're a pro's pro. But you just touched on that game, those games in Bridgeport. I truly didn't know what a Sunday was in Bridgeport because I never played in the East before. I always played in the West. I played in Chicago, San Antonio, Tucson. I never experienced what a Sunday in Bridgie was really like until I got there. And it was literally, it's you, your skunk, your agent, and that's about it. You know, it's like, who else is in the stand here? You know, it's like one goofy watching it from
the national anthem, that the singer that sang, you know, that's about it.
Yeah, you got the guy selling 50-50, and the 50-50 is going to be $7 after the game. But
what do they have that game for? Is that like for kids to go to or something? Like, why is it in the
no? There's always just the Sunday like 2:00 game, 3:00 game. You know, like a lot of teams have them, but it just seems like every time it's Bridgie that I'm going to on the Sunday afternoon game. Either Bridgie or Hershey, 3:00. We had there last weekend. There we had the Teddy Bear Toss game in Hershey. You know, they set a record, 75,000 Bears. We were sitting in the dressing room for 45 minutes waiting to get back out there to start the second again. So it was a long game, and then it goes to overtime, and you know, it was like about a 4-hour game before we left Hershey. It was crazy.
You can only mow down. You can only mow down so many Gatorade bars. You can only have so many, you know, Pedialyte packets. It's like, all right, fellas, get these Bears off the ice, dust them off. Let's get back on the sheet here.
We fired up the tunes again, got the tunes going again.
Yeah, you have to.
It was pretty sick.
Yeah, you have to. You got to stay in it a little bit. You're maybe checking. I don't know if some guys are, you know, looking for a TV. Maybe one of the trainers is watching a football game on their phone. Like, fuck, what's going on over there, fella? You know, what's that score in that Packer game? Are they going to make it?
Yeah.
But Willie, I wanted to touch on your coach because this guy is an absolute legend of the game, and Ian LaPerriere, a guy who played 18 years in the National Hockey League, over 1,000 matches, a guy that probably broke his nose more times than he, you know, years played. In terms of that thing is busted up to all hell. But he's a guy that was a very respected player. He's got to be really good for not only you, but for the younger players and prospects to really learn the game, because that's a guy that would block a shot with his face. He was a guy that was just all in and played a really tough way. So how's it been with, you know, your relationship with him, and how's he been for the younger players? Because I imagine, you know, when you work with a guy that's played that long and that respected, he's normally and generally probably a good dude.
Yeah, you know, he's been great. We've had a good relationship, myself and him, the last 3 years that he's been here. You know, you can tell he cares. He wants to win. All he wants to do is win. Like he lives and breathes our team. So it's nice to have a guy, you play for a guy like that. He helps the younger guys. He's been there. And then to go with him, we have another absolute legend, Jason Smith, Gator they call him. He used to play for the Edmonton Oilers, captain of the Edmonton Oilers, captain for the Philadelphia Flyers, played for the Leafs for a little bit. And he's just an absolute legend. I think he's got 1,000 games too, and he played heavy 1,000 games. You know, like he was a nail gun, and he's still a beauty. So we got good coaches that we're learning from and running our ship. So it's been good, and I love playing here.
It's a huge part of the season. Is if you enjoy your coaches. Like, think about a season where you don't like your coach. It's the longest season ever. Like, you don't even want to go to the rink. You almost want to beat the guy up every time you see him. That's good that you got a good.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's nice too when your coach makes your nose look straight. So that's just a bonus.
Yeah, you don't have to come down to Scottsdale with all these birds down here getting a facial reconstruction surgery. You know, you're walking around with, you know, a new nose. You're looking like an older version of Michael Jackson. But no, it's cool, Willie. And I just wanted to back it up a little bit to your younger days. In terms of, you know, getting started as a young 20-year-old pro, you came over, you turned pro after, I believe it was a year in the Owen Sound. You played your junior there for the Owen Sound Attack. You had a really good year that year. I don't even know when it was. It was probably 2010, 2011. Okay, so
last year,
yeah, you're coming over as a 20-year-old, 4th-round pick of the Florida Panthers, and they send you right down to Cincinnati. Like, as a kid that was a really good junior player, and there's a lot of kids that listen to this podcast in terms of college players, junior players, they always think like, oh yeah, if push comes to shove, I'll just go play in the American Hockey League. It's like, boys, it ain't that easy. And you're a guy that signed an NHL contract, had to go down to the coast for almost a year and a half, brother. Like, how did you take that at the time, and how did you really set your mindset and reframe your mind to a point where, like, you know what, I'm just going to go down there, take this on the chin and do what I can and just be the same player and get better and work my way up through the ranks? Because I think a lot of times that art is lost in these kids. They want the results right now. They want to be in the NHL, you know, yesterday, and they don't believe in the process. So what I'm asking you, Willy, like at that time, how did you take that, and what would you tell a younger player, even a kid on your team, maybe bounce around between the AHL and the East Coast League, because you can really relate to them?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, but when I was still in junior, like, Twitter was just starting up. So you didn't even hear about the East Coast League at all. Like, I knew nothing about it. Just had a good year, went to the Mem Cup with my team. Had 40 tucks during the season, like, had a good playoffs. I'm thinking, like, oh yeah, I'll go to the AHL. Like, it's all I really knew, kind of thing. So I, go to Florida camp, hop in the car, three of us convoy down to San Antonio back from Toronto. So it was like, we had like 2 or 3 days to get down there. So we roadied down there, stopped in Nashville, stopped in Dallas, got down to San Antonio, had camp there. And then within a week, I had to hop back in the Jeep and drive 20 hours north again, back up to Cincy. And so I'm going to the coast. I'm like crushed. I'm like, I'm going to the coast. Like, what's going on here? Like, never really knew anything about it. Thinking I'm just going to go down there and score like 3 goals a game kind of thing. Like, you didn't hear anything about it when I was in junior. And then, so then I go there to Cincy, and it's probably one of the better East Coast cities. So that was a good balance there. And I got sent down with a beauty. It was his first year pro too, but he's a little older. Justin Vive there. He's from Toronto, and he's son of Ricky
still
Vive.
Playing there?
Yeah, he's still in Cincy.
He's been there forever.
Yeah, it's actually funny. So like, we went down there together, and we were roommates right away. And so I'm just chilling with Vive. He kind of showed me the ropes. He was just a good guy to me the whole time. And we'd joke around that first year because we liked it there. Like, it was fun playing there. We had a good coach there, a good team. Like, we had a blast there. And we were joking. We're like, yeah, we'll sign a 10. I would sign a 10-year deal there right now. Play only home games. I'll be here for the rest of my career. Yeah. And he's still there, fucking loving it. It's so funny. But he's the mayor there in Cincy.
He's stuck with his word.
Yeah, but Cincy was a great place to play. I loved it there. And then played pretty much the full year there. I think I got like 10 or 12 AHL games that year. And then the next year was the lockout. So then I'm thinking I'll be in the AHL this year. Lockout again. AHL is a little better. I got pushed out again. So then I go back to Cincy for another half a year. So, like I said, like, when I was going down, I thought it was going to be easy. I was going to score 3 goals a game. You get down there and you realize it's a pretty good league. Like, the coast is legit, like there's guys grinding, there's guys playing the right way. There's guys, they're older guys that are staying there because they like it close to home or stuff like that. So it's a good league. And when I went down there, I didn't really, I didn't pout. I'm not that kind of guy that just will pout and just shut down kind of thing. I just played hockey, had a blast, chucked cards on the bus, went out to the bars, like, hung out with the team, just had a good time and translated the ice, played good hockey. And then eventually the lockout ended. Then I got the call back up to the AHL, and then pretty much been in the AHL ever since. So, but for kids, just stick with it, like, just go down there, have a good attitude, have fun with the boys. At the end of the day, you're getting paid to play hockey. So, there's a lot worse you could be doing. So, I had a blast. I've had a blast everywhere I went and played. There's so many good guys in this game. So, anywhere you go, you're having a great time. And I liked my time in Cincy, and then it was nice to take that next step to get to the AHL finally.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've always been a guy. I even noticed when we played together, Willy, there would always be kids coming up from Newfoundland at the time with Toronto coming into the Marlies, or going down, or coming up vice versa. But you were always a guy that would seek out those players, give them really good advice in terms of how to handle things, especially the young players that don't really understand maybe why they're going down the East Coast Hockey League. They're good enough to play here, but there's a lot of guys ahead of you, and there's a lot of good players in pro hockey. And you always had such a good mindset in terms of how to relate to these kids. And I that's probably what makes you such a good captain in Lehigh, is where it's not end all be all. It's not over. You just have to keep working. And I think a lot of these kids at times, especially the younger players, can get discouraged with being even sent down from the NHL to the AHL, and from the AHL to the East Coast Hockey League. And sometimes being sent down to the coast is a little bit more of a slap in the face because, you're going to play in the coast. But like you said, it's a pretty good league at the same time.
Yeah, like, when I first got sent down, I'm not even gonna text my buddies I'm getting sent to the cheese toast. Like I was just like didn't want to tell them. And then I got down there, I'm like, okay, this league's pretty legit. Like it's not as bad as people think it is. And then but yeah, anytime a young guy gets sent down there now, I always just tell them to keep their head up. I'm like a little seasoning in the coast never hurt. It gives you a little sandpaper to your game. You'll come back way better. You'll learn a lot from it. So the couple of guys that here, like Zayd Wisdom that I play with here, he went down for a little stint, and Mason Millman, another guy, they go down for a little stint and they come up and they're playing way harder. And I just love their game up here now with us. So it's sick to go to see that they go down there, get a little sandpaper, then come up and they're a better player for it. So it's cool.
Yeah, like you throw a little lemon pepper on that fella, a little Lowry's on there, give you a little seasoning salt, stiffen up that upper lip, baby. Come on, stiffen up your chin a little bit, right? So, you make a great point, and the easy come, hard to leave hockey league, Willie, as some people call it, but you make your way out of that. You grind into SanAnTone. You spent 3 odd years there. You played with some legends there, and one guy I want to bring up with is the fucking Heat Show, Danny Heatley. I mean, this guy was all time. He's a guy that I watched growing up at the University of Wisconsin, had season tickets. I mean, this guy, two things of tape, maybe 2 ways around the blade, just right in the middle, just a thin piece, sick as hands. Like, what was it playing like with him? Especially, he was kind of on the back 9 of his career, maybe on hole 17 or 18 at the time, being sent down to the jungle there from Florida. But what was a guy like Heat Daddy doing in San Antonio at the time? Was he a pretty good dude to be around?
Oh yeah. He what a legend. Like, you just growing up, I watched him, like Toronto versus Ottawa. I saw that guy score so many goals, and remember him with the Thrashers with the Eagle middies on him and shit too. Like no visor, just ripping it up. And he was everything I thought he was. He's just such a good dude. He would take care of the boys. I think he was started in Anaheim, and they traded for him. And then he came right to us, kind of thing. So. At first, all the boys are just excited to get to meet him and stuff like that, and then you find out he's living at the Ritz-Carlton in San Antonio for 3 months straight, like just paying for a room every
paying
night.
A nightly rate.
Yeah. It was at the Ritz in San Antonio. He would take the boys to Spurs games. We'd be sitting like 3 rows up. I remember the one game he took like 5 or 6 of us. We went golfing, go to the Spurs game. We're like 3 or 4 rows up. I remember I was just sitting there. It was like Cleveland was when LeBron was in Cleveland. I think it was the year they ended up playing each other in the finals, and I'm just remember I was just sitting there. I'm just like look over. I'm like Heater's sitting there. I'm like 3 rows from the hardwood. I'm like, I felt like I was on a different planet. It was so cool, like the atmosphere and everything about it. But he'd always take care of the boys. Bought our tickets. Go back to the Ritz-Carlton after. Just order beers to the room for all night. Like it's just like. $25 for a Bud Light. Took care of the boys. Like he just loved having a good time. And it's funny now he's actually a scout for Philly, so it's funny. I was hoping I got to see him there at training camp, but I didn't get to see him. He was I think he's out in Cali looking at their the Western teams for Philly. But it's pretty funny he's on the books here now.
Yeah, because he lives out in Manhattan Beach. I think guys are always say they kind of see him from time to time. When the summer I was living out there, he was always a rumor to be around. I never saw him, but he was out in Manhattan Beach. But that's so funny. He's like, hey, we'll go play some golf. We'll load up the sprinter. Hey, Willie, bring the tweezers. We might be sitting close to the wood in case you get a splinter. Go watch that's just so National League and living at the Ritz-Carlton. Like, talk about big time.
And the best part of it was I was on his line when he was in San Antonio too. It was me, Heater, and Vinny Trocheck. Like, what a line to be on.
What a line.
Good line.
And I just remember like being on the ice. You'd honestly, like his tape, I'd tell him this. I'm like, we're late night over a few beers, telling him like, Heater, it's so easy to find your stick because that tape job just sticks out like a sore thumb. Like it's just the black blade with the little bit of white. I'm like, it's just like when you're in the corner, you kind of just see it on your peripherals. It's like easy to find them. It was cool playing with him, and it was sweet setting him up. He set me up. It was awesome.
Do you think that tape job he rocked, was it smaller than the Jamie Benn currently? The 2 strands or 3 strands, they're about the same because it's
pretty close. Yeah,
pretty close.
Pretty
close.
Close.
He took that tape job from Heater, right? Like, come on. He stole that right from Heater.
Yeah, no, it was sick. I just remember too, like in the morning, he'd get there in the morning, he'd be up to his neck in the hot tub until pretty much he had to get dressed. It was pretty cool just how old school he was and just a beauty. We had a bunch of beauties on that team there. A lot of ex-NHLers found their way to San Antonio there, so it was cool to play with some of those guys.
Yeah, that's a great jungle city. I mean, I spent time there, as you know, Willie. Just got the river walk there, especially a team going in on the road. I mean, you got the Coyote Ugly, you got the old piano bar right there, Howl at the Moon, Howl at the Ferda, as I like to call it. So that's a 1-2 parlay if you're a team coming in the road. And then there's a lot of great bars just around the quarry area, and you got the hangar. There's a couple good spots. But wouldn't Heat Daddy, just one last thing on him, wouldn't the heater go up to the neck in the hot tub, and then wouldn't he be pounding like a rock star energy, kind of just shaking it off from the night before?
Yeah, oh yeah, and then for games, he would just pretty much just coat his whole entire body with Flexol, just load it right up his entire body. It was great.
Was he pretty good still back then too? Like, he obviously had the skill still, right?
Yeah, he still had the middies, the shot, and everything. He could still get around. He was I don't know what his stats were like with our team, but he was solid for us. He was good shit.
Living at the Ritz-Carlton, that's so national. Paying the nightly rate, a fella at 900.
Heads down to the lobby every morning. Yeah. I'll extend one more night.
Yeah. We go clean it up there. It's got a little stinky in there last night.
Yeah. Get the empties out of there.
Yeah. Unbelievable. But Willy, you get your first shake in Florida in terms of the National Hockey League. You spent time obviously in San Antonio, like we just touched on, and you get 30 games. That the final year you were there, you played 6 playoff games under Turk Gallant. That time you were there, what was your role in Florida? And I believe you were almost up for 3/4 of the year, maybe getting scratched a little bit here and there. But did you have a thought of, after the year ended playing in the playoffs, that you could have stuck there? Or was that just kind of your first shake and I'll go to free agency? How did it kind of roll out of, getting out of the Florida organization and ultimately getting your first shot, prior to that?
Yeah. I was drafted there, and I remember I was having a pretty good year there in San Antonio the one year, and I got called up for 3 games, whatever. Florida was having a tough year. They're out of the playoffs already. It was like March. They got the charity 3 games, got sent back down. Then the next year, another full year in the AHL, got a couple more games, kind of thing. They were kind of bottom of the standings again. And then the third year, when I finally got a good shot at it there, got 30 something games there and got to play in the playoffs. They won their division. So it was cool because I was getting called up and I was on like a playoff team. So that was cool. And my role there was just kind of fourth line, obviously. I was on a line with Derek McKenzie, who was our centerman, and Sean Thornton, just the biggest legend ever too. And so we stuck for a lot of the games I was playing with those guys. And our role was just kind of bring energy and, get some momentum for our team whenever we get out there. And, so that was fun, like getting to play with those guys. Like I felt like I could do whatever I wanted on the ice. I had Thordy right beside me, taking care of me. So that was definitely cool going in the games when you're young. You're still trying to find your way in the league, and having a nail gun like that on your right side was a lot of fun. And then, playoffs, we ended up, we were the higher seed. We lost the Islanders in 6 games, had a couple double OT games. We lost a couple heartbreakers there. But, I played well in the playoffs, and then we lost. So then they kind of wanted to shake things up, I guess. And so then I was trying to go back there, but it didn't work out. And then next thing you know, I was signed with the Pittsburgh organization there. I was finally wasn't a restricted free agent.
Yeah, and just looking at your DB, you spent, I think, the next 3 years there playing with Wilkes-Barre. You finally got a shot, I think, in your 4th season, maybe with an organization. And you spent probably the good amount of that year before you came over to Toronto and signed that one-way deal. But you played 50 games that final year in Pittsburgh. You had a significant role. You also played in the playoffs, and were really contributing to the team. But I just wanted to ask you, like, that year and those times you were spending around Pittsburgh, especially the year you were up most of the year, like, how nasty was it seeing Sid up and close and personal, and seeing these Hall of Famers like Letang, Malkin, some of these guys snap it around? Like, is Sid everything that people kind of imagine and envision? Because he just seems like not only the perfect hockey player, I call him the most skilled grinder I've ever seen, but is he just like such a good dude on the day-to-day? Because I just envision him just being just the ultimate like hockey guy. Not the guy that's going to be closing down the bar, but he's going to be up there with the fellas and organizing everything and being the first guy at the rink. He just seems like just such a cool hockey guy,
Yeah, he's the man, and it's signing in Pitt. I was excited to go to training camp, see these guys, and then I think it was my second year is when they went for their run there on their second of their back-to-back championships there, and I got the black ace the whole time. So got to be a part of that kind of and see that. And then we were in Nashville when they won it, so see them partying in the room. You're kind of like upset because you felt like you're pretty close to being there, but you're not really there. You kind of feel like a pigeon a little bit, but just being in the room, seeing them partying and stuff like that was pretty cool. And then the next year, getting to play with them for a while was awesome. But yeah, Sid, just a stand-up guy, like the best guy ever. And then even like seeing Malcolm, Letang, Kessel, all those guys. I remember I'd be sitting on the bench and just seeing that PP1 snap it around. I'm just thinking, I got the best seat in the house watching this stuff, and they're just zipping it around. One touches everywhere, pretty much skating the puck right in the net. Like it was unreal to see that live every day and see them in practice. Like you see what they do on the ice in games. It's like in practice they do crazy stuff all the time too, where you're just like, holy shit, did you see that? You know, like that people don't even see. So it was cool to be around them, and yeah, like I said, just a top notch guy. It felt like every time on the road, the guys would be on the road. We'd go to the room like after a game kind of thing. If we're just taking it easy, we'd go all get together, play some cards, drink a little wine and whatever. And it just Sid would always show up. Like you don't know who was talking, and like no one would say, "Oh, is Sid coming?" He would just you hear a knock on the door or the latch would be on the door, and Sid would walk in. Like he always knew he would always show up. So he's just such a beauty.
That's unreal. You never hear too many stories about Sid either. Like he kind of stays in the weeds a little bit. Probably smart, someone of his nature, but yeah, that's nails that he came and hung out with the boys. Like you wouldn't even, I mean, everyone wonders like, does McDavid do this stuff? Does Sid hang out with like the normal guys, or are they just like, because they're a lot different than all of us. But it's cool to hear those stories.
No, it's cool. He's a super down to earth guy. Like he'll come over, talk to you. Like he just like actually you can legit cares like how you're doing and stuff like that. And then just showing up. He just knows how to be a captain. He's done it for so long. He's such a leader, and everyone just loves being around him. I haven't met one single person that has a bad thing to say about him. So, he's just a legend, and I learned a lot from him there when I was there.
Willie, you got to touch on the one story though when he invited you last minute to All-Star break. I believe you guys flew up to maybe Jackson Hole, and tell the viewers a little bit about how that went down. I think you guys were in Vegas the night before. You might even have held up that private bird going into Wyoming maybe. So touch on that a little bit and how cool it was to go snap it around at the $1 Million Cowboy bar in Jackson Hole with arguably, a Mount Rushmore type player of the game, a top 4 or 5 player of all time, because this story is really cool.
Yeah, it was like we had the bye because when they had the bye weeks and that too. So it was the bye week and then right into the All-Star break, and we were in Vegas. I've been up for a few games, kind of up and down a little bit, and then I've been up for a few games, and then thinking the bye week, I haven't heard a thing out of the GM or Sullivan or anything what my plan was. But so we're playing the game in Vegas, and we're just getting shelled. It's like 5-1. They're just buzzing us, and I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, should I just try to fight Reeves right now? Like, just like do something. I'm like, it's already the game's like 5-0. Like, I feel like it's too late. And I'm like, nah, whatever kind of thing. Didn't end up happening. And then at the end of the game, I'm like, oh shit, like maybe I should have. Maybe they're gonna send me down now. Like I should have did something kind of thing. And then so then at the end of the game, we lost 6-1. Sullivan calls me over. He's like, yeah, like what you're doing. We think you're a part of this team, so we're going to give you the bye week. So I'm like, unreal. Like I figured I was just taking the bird home back to Pittsburgh at the end of the game with all the staff and stuff, and then hopping in the car service and heading to Wilkes the next day. So I had nothing planned or anything like that. And all the boys were staying, and they had a table at Omnia, I'm pretty sure it was. And so we go there. We're having a good time. I'm fired up. I'm like staying. I got a bye week. Still had no plans. Just kind of going with the flow. Like they're gonna figure it out. Like worst case, I'll just stay maybe in Vegas and catch a bird back to Toronto or something the next day or two or whatever. So then whenever we have a night, late night mini bars in the hotel, and Sid's just like, "You're coming with me to Jackson Hole, Wyoming." I'm like, I don't even know where that is, but okay, like. If you say so, I'm coming. Like next question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I got a private bird in the morning. We're going to go. So whatever, we have a pretty late night there, and we're trying to set it up. And so then we're going back, and I get back to my room, like it's pretty late, and I get back to my room, I go pack kind of thing. I'm like trying to set up my girl's flight to Jackson Hole because Sid's girl's there waiting for him or whatever. And so whatever, I get back to the hotel. I don't know what happened, but I just passed out. Like didn't set an alarm or anything. Like I just packed, and I don't know, I just like put my head down for a second and I passed out. And I'm like, and I wake up to someone pounding on my door. I'm like, what? I like wake up, I'm like in a absolute blur. I go open the door. It's like the cleaning lady. They're like, someone's trying to get a hold of you. Someone is trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, what? Like, look at my phone. It's pretty much almost dead. I look, it's like, Sid's like, where are you? Like, are you good? Are you good? What, like, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, I'm going over to the airport. You come. I text him right away, call him right away. I'm like, sorry, Sid, I can't believe it. I don't know what happened. I fell asleep. I don't know what happened, man. I'm still coming if you wait for me, kind of thing. So I had to pretty much just throw everything in my bag, sprint down to the lobby, trying to find an Uber. I'm like running around Vegas, chicken with a head cut off, like trying to find an Uber, get to the airport as fast as I can so I don't have to make Sidney Crosby wait for me. I get to the airport finally. He's just sitting there with his feet up in the lobby there talking to both of the pilots, just chilling so hard.
Yeah.
I walk in, he's just laughing. Like, he didn't give one shit that I was late. Like, he's just such a good dude, like that way. Hop on the bird, go to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. There's a snowstorm in Toronto, so it takes a little bit for my girl to get there. So then for like 2 full days, I'm just third wheeling with Sid and his girls there around Jackson Hole. Is pretty crazy to think. I'm just sending snaps to my buddies. I'm like, can you believe this shit right now?
Yeah.
It was insane.
It's insane.
That is so cool. Just post it up at the $1 Million Cowboy with arguably a top 3 player of all time and his gal. You're third wheeling. We got me, you, and Dupree, and I'm over here just out with beers, just getting them going.
Yeah,
but
it is like real life, man.
It's just a testament to who that guy is. He's just got his feet up in the signature airport, the private strip just off of McCarran International in Vegas, just waiting for you. That's just so cool. Like,
I knew him for like a month. Like I knew him for like a month. Like I was called up for maybe 10 games before that happened. And he just like, come with me my whole vacation before I go to the All-Star game. Like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just such a good dude.
That is so cool, man. So, I don't even know, like, when you came over from Toronto, and I think that summer leading up to, you were kind of just deciding where you wanted to sign, and whether it's going to be back in Pittsburgh. I think they were offering you a heavy 2-way, but Toronto was offering you a 1-way, and I think even Sid was like, we really want you here. It's a tough spot to be in, right, Willie? Because you got a 1-way on the table. I think it was maybe your first 1-way of your career, and you really earned it to that point. But a guy that you kind of, it's just cool that he would even keep in touch and send you messages like that. It's just a testament to how cool that guy really is. So, Willie, I wanted to get into just a little bit of our Marlies days where I met you, brother. I heard a lot about you, the old Brett Hall line, just from mutual buddies, especially our good buddy Bennington, and a guy that Ozzy knows as well with Danny Crystal. You played a little bit of Cup of Joe with him in Wilkes-Barre, but that team we had in Toronto was so funny. I mean, I think that payroll that year in the AHL might have rivaled the Arizona Coyotes of this year. Like, talk about just so many guys just comfortable on 1-ways, and they were always just sitting us out that year. Remember that? We'd play we were like in a veteran rotation where like 2 guys would play a game, and you'd have to come out. Like, there was a game that maybe Willie, you scored and you fought, and you're coming out of the lineup, and you're talking to like a rookie coach, like, hey buddy, like, what the fuck's going on? But that place, we had a lot of fun there. And just talk about a little bit of that Marlies team, because talk about a lot of guys that could throw both ways on and off the ice. I mean, you had Kenny Agostino, Ben Harper, Nicky Slicky Patan. That guy's still nasty. He tears up the jungle. Beauty. Even that guy Pontus Aberg was a really good player. But that crew of beauties was pretty funny running around the city there for a little bit.
Yeah, it was fun. Coming from Pitt and Wilkes-Barre, it was like they ran it just old school. Like Sid had it dialed, how it was just old school mentality. Like the boys get together for beers, like just stuff, little things like that. And then finally got the 1-way I was kind of looking for my whole career, and so I took it in Toronto, in my hometown. So going to that team is like, it was a little different right away. I kind of had a tough start, blowing my hammy before training camp even started. So I was kind of just injury rehab there the whole first half. So it kind of sucked that way. But we had a good crew. Like, as new school as Toronto was, we had probably the biggest old school crew you could find there in the jungle that year, and we definitely had a lot of fun there. But it was just so different, coming from an old school organization run, just a normal practice with an old school coach like Clark Donatelli, and then going to this new school where you're getting to the rink, and we got skills coaches all like iPads just videotaping every second of every practice. Like, you're listening to the coach drop a drill, they're videotaping you watching him draw the drill. It's just like, was so new school, and you're getting split up to 4 different ice surfaces, then coming together for a little practice like with the team all together. Finally, it was just weird, and I didn't really like it, and it was a tough year, and then COVID hit and everything. But
right.
we had, like you said, we had a great crew and still had a lot of fun. And it was just a different change of pace for me. And I kind of, how I am, just like the old school a little bit better. And it was a fun year. Weird playing at home. I didn't really like it. I kind of like getting away from home. It's just a lot of distraction, a lot of people. Like you said, we're a bunch of guys on one ways, and you're getting sat out every second, third game. I got people from my hometown. Hey, I'm coming to the game. I'm coming to watch you today. I'm like, buddy, I'm in the press box. You come to the 6 a.m. skate to watch me? Like, you're not going to see me out there tonight. But so it was kind of hurt the ego a little bit sometimes when you're getting set out and that. So it sucked. But
what's the philosophy there? What is the reason? Like, did they tell you guys, like, we're just going to cycle you guys in and out? Or did they have, like, a method to their madness? Or were they just, they just wanted their younger guys to get some ice time that sucked at the time?
Yeah, and they signed so many guys to one ways because they're not worried about the money, that there's so many vets on your team that you can only dress a certain amount. So then try to get a rotation going. Then one guy's not on the rotation. Only a couple guys are going on the rotation. It's just an absolute shit show when it gets like that. So
yeah, I mean they basically sign guys, Ozzy, to an insurance policy at camp. So they'd sign Willie, they sign Kenny Agostino, they sign a guy like Nick Shore, they sign a guy like Pontus Aberg. So they have 4 guys maybe going for one spot, and they know they can do that because they can pay them. So say whoever Babcock wants to pick right off the bat is their guy, and they send the rest of the guys down, and then they're just rotating them in this cycle of, calling guys up from the East Coast Hockey League to get games in the American League. Okay, then Willie has to sit. Or, I was told really early on, I had a decent amount of points in the number of games played. And they're like, Schmaltz, you're doing okay here, but we got to put you in a rotation where you're going to play maybe 1 out of every 3 or 2 out of 3 because we have to get these younger players to play. And it's like, buddy, I mean, no offense, but I'm kind of in the prime of my career right now, trying to make it to the next level, and you have a 4th round pick that's 20 years old. You're going to play over me? Like, are you?
Yeah, tough to get in the rhythm too. You're getting taken out, and then like the young guys are looking at you like, oh, they're not even giving you the respect you should get because you're like, oh, you're a healthy scratch, buddy. Like, who the fuck are you, kind of thing. So you kind of lose a little bit of respect there, and then you're not grinding with the boys every night, which it feels like you're not really part of the team as much as you should be. So it is tough when you get into those situations. So. That's why it's been pretty nice here in Lehigh. We've never had a vet problem since I've been here. So it's been good. Right
away, I knew a lot about Willie just as a person, just because, a guy like Bennington, who was my roommate, as you know, in the minors, and just talking to him, you're like, oh, you're going to love this guy. You're going to love Willie. I'm like, yeah, he seemed like a great guy who's hurt a little bit at camp. I didn't get to go to, he didn't come to Newfoundland with us because at the time that's where Toronto was having their camp. And it was like one of the first games of the year Willie was back, and we were in Rockford, and Agostino kind of got hit from behind, and there was a line change, or maybe Willie was playing on a line with Kenny, and I go up to the guy who was a bigger guy, a guy I wasn't going to fight, let alone was I going to fight ever. But I go up to him, I kind of give him a stick, a shove, because you got to do it, right? You got to get in the guy's face. You're carried, one of your teammates, let alone one of your better buddies. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Willie flies in, and he gives this guy like a sucker punch, and he's like roughing him up right in front of me before I can even get back at this guy. And he really looks at this guy's like, if you want to fight him, you got to fight me first, motherfucker. He's just I'm like, right away, I'm like, holy shit, Willie is nails. He's right in there for me. He's like, if you want to fight Schmaltz, you got to fight me first. I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. I'm like, it was like a 10 a.m. game in Rockford. I'm pretty sure it was like a school day. I'm like, holy
10 a.m.
This guy means business. And then the other story, Willie, I wanted to tell was, they were going to scratch you for a matinee on a Sunday. And I think the night before you went out, maybe just for dinner, had a couple beers, went home, yada, yada, yada. You're going to get up, there was no morning skate that day. You just have to work out during the game. So they call you like 10 minutes before warmups. They're like, hey, someone's got the flu. You got to come in here. You're like, okay, I'll be there in 10. Like, you literally left your place 10 minutes before warm-up started. Willie sheds his laundry. I mean, it was amazing. I think he just got right off the couch, came in the rink, puts $1,000 on the board, Ozzy. $1,000, 500 team, 500
Let's
trainers.
Go.
Gets dressed in 4 minutes and goes out there and plays the game like any other guy. Be like, the younger players be like, oh, I got to stretch and I got to get ready. Willie was just he sprinted to the rink. I don't even know if he drove. He might have ran. I think
I even had a skate in the morning that morning too. Before like one of those 4 o'clock games. I think I skated at like 7 or 8 a.m. That's so around they took me out of the lineup. Whatever, right. And it ended up being it was Kenny got his bell rung the game before, and they didn't think to like, oh, just in case Kenny can't go, like maybe have someone ready to go. They bagged me, and then I think it was like an hour and a half before the game. I'm getting a call. I'm like, no way, they're calling me right now. told me to come in, just buzz across the Gardner Expressway right to the Rico Coliseum and get dressed. Didn't even have time to play sewer ball and take my sticks, I don't think.
No, you literally had like
boys might have been on, but they might have been in a warm up already. I don't even know.
No, that's what I mean. You were I specifically remember you were getting dressed, like taking off your suit, and I was coming in to like the dry stall area, and I was half dressed. I'm like, funny, we got like 7 minutes here because you had skated that morning at like 8 a.m. I think you went down for a little pregame nap on a Sunday, and then they like called you, woke you up, you sprinted to the rink, quick 500 Beanos on the board, right on the sheet. You're like, fuck it, let's do it. So that was just a testament to who you are. I was fucking dying laughing. I was like, oh my God, this guy's in a game right now after he just did deadlifts for 45 minutes.
Yeah, that was some of the stuff that they did in Toronto that I didn't really didn't really like, and that was part of it.
Yeah, for sure. So no, that was a hell of a year. And I mean, even just, that they kind of ended with that COVID thing. And just the last little bit I wanted to touch on our time in Toronto is, remember it was like everything was shut down in Canada. I mean, Turd had that thing locked up like Fort Knox, and it was just, the whole city was a ghost town. I actually had to come back from Bridgeport to pack up my shit at the apartment there before I was going to go back stateside. And I was there for like 2 weeks. That was kind of right in around the North Dakota Beer Pong Invitational we were doing via Zoom. But one of the days we just kind of loaded up our cars and went over to your place just north of Barrie there. And we get to your house and we're just like, we got to get out of here. Some of the boys, was like Kenny, myself, Petey Patan, a guy like Ben Harper, and then the gal at the time, and the dogs were ever hanging out. But remember that setup you had in your living room where you had like a mini hoop and like a 3-point line like tape? That was so sick. We were balling in your living room.
I love that.
Yeah,
all the boys that up fence. That was unbelievable.
No, that was strictly COVID there. I have pretty high like ceilings there in my living room on my one floor there, and I actually have like legit like the brown hardwood like right out of a basketball court, So I had the hardwood. I was just sitting there one day. I'm like, I got room to shoot some hoops. Went and had bought like a little like basketball hoop from Amazon, like legit like pretty nice little hoop. And then I just got like white tape and like put the 3-point line, made a nice key. Like it was crispy. And we could just stand in the kitchen, the one corner, the corner 3, you could just like, the way the ceiling was perfect. You could arch it however high you wanted it. And, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we had the boys got out of the city there, came up to Barrie there, hour north of Barrie, hop on the 400 and head north. And we had a good time there that night. We played some beer pong and got the boys out of the city, out of the way from Corona there.
Yeah, working your mid-range game just right in the living room. Yeah, that one pocket just had like enough arch manning where you could kind of get a little lob on it and just top
like the kitchen and the island wasn't in your way. It was kind of just the perfect setup. Yeah, no, it was nice.
And then just right in between beer pong games, just right over there. But Willy, before we let you go here, just give us the overall state of the jungle as a whole. How are these young kids? What's the biggest difference you think you've noticed from the time you came up, in 2011 or 2012 to where you are now, your 13th year pro, 610 American Hockey League games and counting, brother. I mean, I think you have almost 800 career pro games. So really impressive. But just as a whole, like, what's the difference? I mean, I saw some game film out of you earlier this year where you absolutely tattooed a kid on the boards and you're looking around like someone's going to shed and everyone's looking around like, I'm scared shitless of this guy. It's the fucking sheriff.
Yeah, the games, it's gone a little softer. Obviously, I remember when I was coming in, there were still some big boys floating around the league where there isn't too many of those guys anymore. A couple here and there, but the young guys that come in now, they're so cocky. It's hilarious how cocky they are. I remember I was coming in, I didn't even say a word. These kids are pretty much chirping anyone, chirping the coach, whatever. They don't. You're on the ice with guys and like they're just absolutely beaking you. And like I'm like, buddy, do you realize I could cave your face in if I got a hold of you right now? Like, and they're not scared, just chirp me. They call me old. I'm just like, that one doesn't sting me at all, boys. I don't care how fucking old I am, whatever. And but it's just funny how chirpy kids are nowadays. And but yeah, sometimes you run around and kind of do whatever you want to do because there's not too many guys going to challenge you. So it's been fun like that, make some room for myself out there and still able to make some plays. So, the league, it's good. It's fast. Like kids are fast. That's the one thing I've realized, that they're just so quick, but they don't teach the IQ like they used to. So, you can get ahead of them a little bit in that way, but it's good. It's skilled. It's fast, but definitely a lot softer and not as much hitting or the physical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he got 195 minutes spent in the box. I mean, how many? You still had 43 points last year. You might have you would have been over a point per game. I mean, how many? You missed so many minutes on the ice just sitting in the box. Like you'd have so many points if you're just weren't in the box. But that's so nails. Like 195 points. That's got to equate to like at least 50 points or 195 PIMS. That's like 50 points in my book.
Yeah,
so you're close to
a lot
100.
of time. There's a few tens here and there, some of the reffing and that is a little subpar. So I obviously it boils the blood a little bit with some of the calls you're getting and stuff like that. So you start to lose it a little bit. So a few tens in there, but yeah, it was an honor there to lead the league in PIMS there last year. Little feather in the cap, but. It's you don't want to be in the box much when you're still getting power play time and stuff like that. You want to be on the ice and you don't want to be hurting your team. But if there's a scrum, that's why I still love playing the game. The scrums and that they're just fun. Getting in the scrum, face washing, chirping a little bit. There's nothing better, and I think that's why I'm still playing, just because I love that shit so much.
For sure, Dave's a killer. Dave's a mess. But really, you're an ultimate foxhole guy, and I wanted to ask you. This year, did you have to go to Camp Tortorella? I know you did the year before. Did you do the 2-mile test when you did that? Were you out there running, and like what was your time? Did they still do that test in terms of the 2-mile, or is that completely axed now from what you're hearing?
No, they're still doing it, but they don't do the 2-mile run anymore. It's strictly just the old skating test.
Yep.
But so last year, I've actually dodged a bullet twice here. So last year, my kid was born right on the first day of camp, so they gave me the free pass since I was on the AHL deal.
Yep.
I didn't have to go to camp, so I missed Camp Tortorella 1 there, and then this year here they didn't need me for bodies, so I didn't get the invite to camp this year. But then 2 or 3 days in, when they kind of split up the NHL and AHL groups kind of thing, they wanted us there, so I got to go to camp there for day 3. So I missed all the testing and got to show up, but. Everyone I talk to, it's no joke there.
What is that skating test, Willie? For the folks listening, like what is it?
Yeah, so Tortorella is known for it. He has this rope, and it's the distance between the nets. So he puts the rope in one net, puts the rope in the other net, puts the nets perfectly, whatever. They're pretty much just like hash mark to hash mark. Yep. And it is 3 laps, 6 times. 3 laps, 6 times. Or they might have done 8 times. So 3 laps, 3 laps each way 4 times with about maybe a minute, 2 minutes in between each lap, and you have to get under a certain amount of time. I haven't had to do it. But everyone I talk to in the videos that I see, they say it is no joke. But Torts really doesn't even give a fuck about the times. He just wants to see guys battle and then get uncomfortable and see if they push through or if they quit, kind of thing. So that's kind of his measuring stick every year, and he loves it. The boys hate it, but it is what it is.
I know. And one of our assistant coaches, Dane Jackson, who coaches at the University of North Dakota, played for Tortorella. He coached under Torts in Rochester. They won a Calder Cup together. He raves about how good this guy is, how old school he is, and just how good of just a coach and a leader and a man John Tortorella is. So I think he is kind of misunderstood, especially in this day and age with people. And that's a guy, I mean, call me old school, but I would love to play for him. I'd love to work for him. He just seems like a guy that can really galvanize a group and lead you into battle. And from what I've heard, Willie, like the first 3 days of camp with Torts or Tortorella, and then he backs off pretty good where there's a lot of days off for camp. He structures it pretty well in terms of just, not being so hard to get in the system work and play the exhibition game. So I think he's a little bit misunderstood in today's day and age. And that interview the other night was pretty funny when they traded that Cutter Gauthier away. He's like, I wouldn't know him from a hole in the wall. He's met the kid. He's out of here.
He just pretty much his thing. He just keeps guys honest, and he kind of like weeds out the phonies and stuff like that. Yeah. So, he like behind closed doors. Like I remember the first year there, when I showed up to camp there a couple days after my son was born, and then he's like just like asking me about my family and stuff. Like he's actually cares. He's such a good guy. But then like to the media, he doesn't want to give them a sniff, the media and stuff like that, and gives some pretty funny quotes and shit like that. But he's probably answering the same shit over and over and over. It's gotta get annoying. So
for sure, yeah, he's a guy that has a lake house in Wisconsin. So Willie, any dude spending some time in Wisconsin, he's good with me. Willie, last little thing from me, your agent, the Rich Paul of sports from Wasserman Sports. That's Drew Shore. the people's agent, wanted me to give a little shout out. He said last year, sometime mid-season, you had about 6 goals. You were in Charlotte. He paid you a visit over at the Bojangles Casino. He took you out for dinner, and you looked him in the eye and said, you know what, Shorzy, coming up for a contract deal this year. I'm struggling to find in the cage a little bit right now, but don't worry. Come July, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get you paid. And I think after that, not only you being a man of your word, I think you rattled off maybe 3 hat tricks after that. It was something insane like that. And I think it was a night after you even had a hattie. So he wanted me to give you a little love there because that's pretty cool, fella.
Yeah, no, I listened to you guys snap it around there a couple of weeks ago. It was a good little pod there you guys had. But yeah, no, he's been great. I know I signed with Shorty there a couple of years ago when he was just getting his feet wet there, becoming an agent after his playing career. And it's just like so cool to have a friend as your agent, just like texting, shooting this shit. Like, you're giving your agent fees to someone you want to give it to, stuff like that. So it's just like, he's been great for me. He came down, sparked me there in Charlotte, and went on a pretty good run there at the end of the year. Like you said, on a contract year. So it definitely helped my cause and helped his cause. And, that's the stuff he does for you. So if you need an agent, if you're listening, there's your guy.
Right. Pick up the phone, baby. What's his hashtag? Call my agent. So call your agent. That's him. Make the call. Jerry Maguire. Willie, you're a beauty, my friend. Keep being the sheriff of the jungle. Good chin, fucking hard, throwing both ways. One of my favorites over here at Live in 5, brother. And also, tell Rhett Gardner, fellow Sioux alum, we say hi over here. He's a fellow golf trip guy. So we appreciate you coming on, bro. As always, awesome snapping around with you. We'll have to have you on a little later in the year, maybe going into playoff time. But I want to get up to Toronto as well and slap it around on the course again. Maybe I'll have fucking 3 drivers in my bag by that time, bro. Because I can't hit sand right now. I can't hit sand, grass, felt, or whatever. It's just the egg is all over the place.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, fellas. It was a blast. And yeah, whenever you guys need me again, let me know.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Willie.
Folks, that was Garrett Wilson, Lehigh Valley Phantoms captain, a veteran of 84 NHL games, 6 playoff games to boot. Absolute beauty. Friend of the show over here at Live in 5. Willie, thanks again. Woo!